Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to CRL Cone Racing League, season number 6. We are live in the hills of Austria for round number 10 and about to get underway with qualifying session number 1. I am your regular host, CRL Freefall, and I am joined by a very, very special guest. As always, the man, the myth, the legend, and I can call him by his proper name now. It's, of course, Indigo.
Yeah, very nice to be back after a 2-week break. Last time out we were in Saudi Arabia where we saw a chaotic race. Now we're in Austria, the hills, like you said, and hopefully it'll be a really good race. This track is one of the shortest tracks of this calendar, and you'll see many people do 4 laps because you could do consecutive laps as well, as it's been very short. So if you validate one of them, you have plenty of time to go for more. In fact, it's Q1, Q2, Q3. Apologies about that. The last time I commentated was short qualifying, but yeah, it is long qualifying, which I forget to remember. So yeah, long qualified Q1, 80 minutes in the first session, the bottom 5 get knocked out. Q2, the top 10 go through, the bottom 5 got knocked out. And next year's game, that rule, the tyres you set your fastest lap on, should be scrapped. And you all know what it is in Q3, the top 10 shootouts. So yeah, it should be on for a very good race. I could barely hear my game audio. In fact, it's not even on. So yeah, I'll turn that on right now.
Absolutely. It's, of course, one of the shortest tracks here on the calendar. 36 laps here tonight, 10 corners only, 4.3 kilometres. Most of the circuit you are, of course, flat out. Expected strategy, starting on the softs, expect the guys to jump into the pits about lap 9 to lap 14, sorry, mediums lap 19 to lap 24. Let's get a look at some of the guys out on track then. Expect to see, like you were saying there, Jamie, maybe a little different choice of strategy in comes the tyres. Of course, it's a very, very short time-wise. You're talking only a little over a minute. That means the gaps are going to be even more condensed than expected, making the mediums a little more viable. And here we see XL Larkin. He's currently on an outlap, on a set of the mediums in Q1, looking to get them out of the way, get into that top 15, and then you would expect him, of course, only having one set of the mediums to start on the softs if he is to make it through. Everybody else so far, aside from Rudy, one of our championship contenders, of course, is on the softs, but expect to see quite a few times being set on those yellow stripe mediums in Q2. In fact, I'm going to jump away from Larkin and jump on board with Andreas, or Andy J. I believe that's how we say his PSN. Of course, we'll just refer to him as Andreas. He will be the first to complete a flying lap in this session. Currently coming around turn 4 into the very technical, very tricky sector 2. These two double right-handers followed up by a double left-hander, sorry, followed up by a quick right-hander here. Very easy to invalidate on the exit of that corner. We see Andreas doing exactly that.
Yeah, it's a tough circuit, a tough challenging circuit in the middle sector, and it's very easy to validate, as you just proven. You have to use a lot of the track and more of it if you can. But the first lap goes towards the grip with a 4.0. That the first lap on the board should be in the comfortable 3s, the low 3s. Maybe I don't think there's going to be the 2s anymore, like it was back in the 2020 games. Being a very short track, and let's see if anybody else is going to cross the line. I think some people have a validated lap time because he's the only person that set a lap time. There's more people cross the lines to do their lap. So I think the Red Bull next to cross the line, that is it's Larkin. Larkin's next to cross the line, and he goes second with a 4.1. So yeah, 1/10 slower than Tigriff. So that tells me that Tigriff's lap time has to be improved. It doesn't look comfortable up there in P1, but it is Q1, and he's doing a banker. But we've got goes out wide in the middle of the corner, and here he is. Then in the final corner he goes. DRS enabled for him, and it's going to be a 4.1 then, just a few hundreds behind to Griff. But yeah, I mean, new newcomers as it seems. We're going to welcome Damon down in P19 there. We're going to welcome Joshua in P3. Troye is back after, I hadn't seen it for a long time, but he is back in F1. And there he is then in P2 in the Williams. And there's another one as well. It is Ruti Guilty, I think, in P16, if I pronounce the name correct.
I've always pronounced Rutgillet, I've always pronounced it, but I may be
Yeah.
wrong there. I think based off the famous football, of course. But like you say, yeah, a lot of guys in reserve tonight. XL Larkin, I believe, making his debut, if not one of his early races. He's reserving for Liam Carrick in the Red Bull. Ruti Gilty, or Rutgillet, however we want to pronounce it, he's in for AJ Wuhan in that Alpha Tauri. FRL Quotation, or Mr. Rotation as he's more better known, he's in for Ferg in the Alpine. CPI Snail joining in for a very interesting one here. The current leading drivers champion, Relentless Khoon. He is missing this race tonight and getting replaced by Snail, making his debut, and Damon, I believe it is, in place for Steiny in the Haas. So 5 reserves in here tonight. Really gives a nice opportunity for the grid to be spiced up a little bit. We don't really know 100% how they fit in pace-wise to this, and it's a big chance for those guys in the championship battle. With Jeroen being away, there's a maximum of 41 points here for somebody to claim. Of course, looking at the Drivers' Championship, Wouter is 62 behind. He could close that gap to only 21 by the end of the night. Pease is almost 100 behind, 94 behind Jeroen, so a big chance for himself to close the gap. And Rudy, don't forget Rudy, he may be 102 points off, but with Jeroen missing this race, that gap can close down in no time. Of course, we do have a few rounds still to go. We are starting to get into the business end here, Jamie, and the races and the calendar is looking very, very tasty, I must say.
Yeah, it is, mate. And while you're talking there, I meant to Griff spoke coming into the penultimate corner. Thankfully, he didn't lose his footwork. He's still out there on the track, but yeah, but he went for his 3rd lap and sadly ended up with the spin. I think he took too much curb on the entry into the penultimate corner, lost the rear, and I think he managed to escape from the wall. Luckily for Griff, so not ended his qualifying session very early because we know he's one of those drivers that can get himself out of the bottom 5. But Rudy in P6 there with a 3.8. Good lap time for Rudy. It's a 3.8 on the medium compound tyres, done 3 laps as well on those tyres. The more laps you can do, probably the better as the rubber starts laying down on the track. Track evolution, of course, and it's still a bit misty out there. It's like grey, dark clouds hovering in, so plenty of time to be found as the track gets better and it improves. Peas out there, go through a lap with you with Peas if you really want.
Yeah, go for it, Jamie. Go ahead.
Using all of the track in the left-hander and coming into turn number 1 to use a lot of curb on the entry, but lose the rear slightly into turn 1. It gets Felix into turn 2, and now we're making our way into this is turn 2. Slight kink in the left-hander, but won't affect the drivers too much. 15.9 in the first sector, using a lot of curb on the entry there. It gets the car rotated nicely, use the throttle as well. DRS enabled for the 3rd DRS straight. And let's see that as we head into turn number 4. Downhill right-hander, braking at the 100-meter board, hitting the inside curb, which he does do very nicely indeed. Avoid the outside curb, can drag you off the track. As we see many people make mistakes there, including Valtteri Bottas himself. Down at turn 6, they keep the minimum speed up, keep it close to the curb, and run it out wide on the exit. Save for this one. Don't hit that inside curb on this one. We're going to avoid that one. I don't run too out wide, but you still want to use that curb on the exit. Now, make this way into turn 9 there. Just flick it in, carrying a lot of speed. Hook that inside line. Bit too much there, but it's still okay. Coming to the final corner, bit hesitant on the entry. DRS enabled, and this is going to put himself in P2, separated Nathan and Cameron Downs. And Cameron Downs, Mercedes 1-2 so far. Cameron Downs on his return to F1. He won the British GP last time out, and here he is again in the Mercedes. As Het Bompier puts himself into P3. Het Bompier, I know he's been struggling recently, and he's had a few Q1 eliminations as the clutch driver, but perfectly he finds himself comfortably in P3 as Joshua goes into P5 in the Alfa Romeo. So on his debut in the Alfa Romeo, doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, Josh ESWJR, I believe he was a tier 2 reserve, making the jump up to tier 1. So a real trial by fire, but finds himself in the top 5 even. I was going to say the top 7, not even that. So very solid show, and of course he said there, Cameron Downs winning on his debut race for his return, I suppose, his return debut to CRL in Britain. He is a full-time driver now, and one that's really got potential to shake up that front running order. It seems to have got a bit of smoke on the track. Pease is going for a little bit of a spin there out of the final corner, as Sieb does improve in his time by 2 attempts, I believe, and is up into the 103.8. Remember, the bottom 5 will be eliminated. Currently, as that stands, it's CPI, Rit Gillett, Snail, Damon, XL Larkin, and FRL rotation. Only though 12 thousandths separating P15 from P16, and look at that grid overall. It's very, very tight all over, from Shizu Cameron down to right at the top, 6 tenths ahead of CPI Damon in P18. So really, it's all about how consistent and how perfect a lap time these guys can put in, because remember, this is the creme de la crop when it comes to CRL drivers. These guys can bang in lap times, lap after lap, but we are trying to find the thinnest of margins. Who's brave enough to put the accelerator on just on the exit of the corner, just slightly bit earlier, makes all the difference. And CPI Ruud Gillet is going to be showing us what kind of difference he can make round in the final corner. DRS wide open down the straight and puts that Alpha Tauri in P3, just ahead of his teammate in fact. So it's a Mercedes 1-2 and Alpha Tauri 3-4. Looking very strong for those two teams so far, Jamie.
Yep, it did. Both Alpha Tauris did a good job, and Ruud Gilton on his debut for Alpha Tauri did a fantastic job in P3. Yeah, when you said P spun, it looks like he was a 10th up in that middle sector. He was pushing really, really hard. Rookie one session as well. You got to be really careful, because if you lose a tire, that's it. Even if you make it into Q2, you still can't participate because you've lost your wheel, and therefore you're out of the session. But Josh has retired, indicating that he's safe from the session, so he thinks he's safe. Pease has retired as well. You don't want to go for consecutive lap time with the soft compound tires, because they're just overheat. There's just no point going for it. Most viable tire, but they can only do one lap maximum performance. But Troye has invalidated through the first corner, go for his fourth run, it seems like, doing 3 laps of those soft compound tires. So sadly for him, he has compromised himself in that first corner, taking a bit too much curb on the entry. It wasn't the exit. Sometimes it's the exit, and it can be the entry as well by taking too much curb. You have to take a lot of curb, but not too much, as you will have had a day. But Robbie in P12 there, nice to see him returning. I didn't think he participated in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix 2 weeks. Yes, he did actually. I think it was the last race he participated. But here he is then in the Aston Martin. One of those drivers has been very unlucky. He's had 2 podiums, but they've been taken off him. In the first sector, a 15.8, decent first sector for him. Down to the gears, hit that apex very nicely. Get the car rotated, not as early as he would want to. He did touch that outside curb and a bit of wheel spin for good motion as well at the exit of that corner. Heading down into turn number 4 then. Downhill section can be very easy to lock the front right. Hits that apex very nicely, rotates the car. Oh, loses wheel spin though by touching that outside curb. Don't want to do that. And now we're coming into turn number 6 then, keeping the minimum speed up. Into 5th gear he stays on the throttle immediately, and he's a few hundreds down. A bit of wobble on going through the middle of turn 6 to turn 7, but sadly for him, he has invalidated it, so indicating that he's struggling around this track. He's currently in P14, so he has to get a lap time on the board. Pyro in the Red Bull, he's on a lap time. He's a few hundreds down in the first sector. His teammate is right ahead of him, and his teammate, I don't think he's on a lap time, or he was, but he's backed out. But Pyro's backed out as well, so Pyro down in P16 has to improve to get himself inside the top 15. And Seagull Gamer, another driver who's outside he's in the drop zone. Another unusual driver, he's struggled as well this season. Rotations down there along with Damon. Damon said he's done no practice, and Damon in the last place has invalidated it. The only driver, one of the drivers in the 4s, hoping to get in the 3s. Rotation as well. I think rotations on a lap. Coming down into turn 4 he goes then. He's got the Haas ahead of him who's not on a lap time. I don't think, yes, he's just invalidated that lap time. But rotation then, I think he had a good result last time out back in Saudi Arabia. In fact, I don't think he did. We'll look at the World Championship. Let's look at the classifications. Yeah, I don't think he did have a good result. I remember him being in the top 10, but something must have happened in that race. And there's Damon just getting in the way, and rotation has to take evasive action and into the pit lane. That's a very late call. Hopefully that's not a penalty. I think it's a penalty in the race, not qualified, if I'm correct. That white line.
It definitely be a penalty in the race qualifying. I think it's a bit more of a grey area. It could be seen as a cut in the track to get back into the pits in time to do another lap. That might be one for the stewards. Might be a little bit of leeway given that he was slightly impeded. We will wait and see. Seeb is on a lap, however. We're going to follow on board with him. Like you're saying, not one that's normally down in that sort of position. Bit of a strange one, but when it's such a tight grid as it is, anything that can, of course, happen. He is going to jump up to P2, however, with a 1:03.57, and that should see him safely through. Pyro has invalidated through turn 1 on his lap. This will be his 4th lap on the softs, and with only 3 minutes 40 seconds to go, it could be a tight call to get to the pits and get a fresh set on. Elsewhere, Taze Leroy, he is on a lap by the looks of things. The only one actually on a lap here. Andreas just starting his. Going to go on board with the Irishman. High hopes for him this weekend. Told me a couple of days ago he's out here to win now. He's doing a lot of talking off the track, and I like that kind of attitude. He's just got to put that into fruition on the track, and a good way to put that down is by a nice little qualifying lap here. Of course, Q1 doesn't set the full grid, only eliminating those bottom 5. So we'll see what Leroy can do here as he rounds the final sector. Penultimate corner, really high speed, committing it in 7th gear. Quick shift down to 6th to help get the rotation, and then down to 5th for the final corner before it's flat out up the hill towards the line. And it's going to be a 103.5 joining that club up at the top. The top 4 separated by 400s essentially. Insane.
That is mad. 4 drivers in the 103.5s. And when you talk about Pyro actually validated in the last quarter, so he had this and next lap. He was on a lap time ahead of C World Gamer. When you're on board with C, Pyro was in the last quarter, and sadly for him, he validated in that last corner, which is caused him to be this and next, so he had to come back to pit lane. So he's on the back foot. To Griff has spun on the curb, where turn number 8, where Verstappen spun all those years ago. Yeah, sadly for him, took too much curb and actually lost it. He didn't validate, but he lost it, and he was on a flying lap. And he might have to come back in the pit lane. There's, 2 minutes left to go in the session as I looked? Yes, it is. So I don't think he can come back in the pit lane, but this is his last chance now. The tyres will be overheated, they'll be cooked up, and yeah, I don't think De Griff's go for it. He might have another lap if he has enough fuel, if he can cool these tyres down and go for it again. So this next lap, as Taze Leroy then goes for a second lap, and it's a 103.5 then. So Taze Leroy on the top of the pecking order there. Andreas is on our lap. No, he's just invalidated his lap time. Mark has invalidated too, down in P10. Rudy is now on the soft compound tyres. His best lap was in the mediums. He feels he's not safe down there in P13. Robbie down there in P15. He's invalidated his lap time. Sadly for him, Snell has also invalidated his lap time. Pyro's on his out lap. To Griff is on his cool down lap. Rotations on his cool down lap. And Damon, who's on his flying lap. So I think we'll go on board with Rudy there. Purple in that middle sector.
Rudy's the only one actually on a lap here. It seems it's really catching a lot of the drivers out. But like you say, purple through the middle sector, 2/10 up. Keep an eye on this man, Jamie.
And he goes quickest with a 3.4. So that's a very good lap time for Rudy there. So he used a set of softs. He wanted to save them for Q2 and Q3 just in case, but he had to use them because he was in that job. So, but rotation crossed the line to start his last flying lap. So where is everybody else? Pyro in the first corner. He was a bit wide into the first corner, but nevertheless he doesn't invalidate it. Keeps it in the boundaries of the track. Robbie's invalidated it. He's in P15. He might find himself knocked out if the likes of Snell, who's currently on a lap time down at turn 4, can improve. Didn't see his first sector. And what about To Griff down there? To Griff has backed off. To Griff has been knocked out of Q1 standing for him. So Snell entering turn number 6 now. Into turn 7 we go. Few hundreds down to get himself inside that top 10. Purple, it says in the middle sector. I don't believe that's true or not. But as he makes his way now towards that penultimate corner, got a car of a Red Bull in the way. That's Larkin. I think he's on a lap time. As he makes his way now, it's that final corner. Can Snell on his debut get himself inside the top 15? Let's have a look. And it is P15 just. Robbie crossed the line. Hasn't got enough time. But Pyro, improvement in the middle sector. Is this going to be enough to get himself in the top 15? Can he knock Snell out on his debut for CRL, sorry. Pyro goes into P16, just can't make it through. And rotation, cross the line in P18. Damon, who's backed off, and To Griff, who's backed off as well. So Snell just makes it through, and he'll be happy with that one.
Snell making it through by 15 thousandths. The finest of margins here in Q1 already. Pyro missing out by those 15 thousandths. He will start in P16 ahead of the Robbie. Robbie, known though, we've seen him before, making his way through the pack from the back of the grid and getting the strategy calls right. Getting maybe a little bit fortunate with when the safety cars or BSCs come out to play, but nonetheless, he is one to watch making through the field rotation. Only slightly missing out on a top 10 start here in Q1 effectively. Finds himself in P18. Damon on his debut. P19, of course, nothing to be scoffed at. Tier 1 is an insanely competitive division, so he can do himself proud knowing that he's even on the grid, I would say. And Tigriff, I would say, is the biggest surprise. P20th for Tigriff. Only 2 drivers, though, outside the top 4. And when you consider the whole grid is separated by 5.5 6 tenths, I suppose we'll say. It's 5.5, 6 tenths. It's just shows the competitiveness of this track and this grid. Interestingly enough, though, all of the drivers on the softs, nobody finishing up like we've seen Excel, Larkin and Rudy at the start of the session, putting in a lap on the mediums. But there we go, Rudy taking the provisional pole of Q1. Taze Leroy, my bold prediction for the weekend before we even got into quali, finds himself in P2 ahead of Shazoo Cameron Dowds. Of course, the Britain's winner. Sieb in P4 and Wouter in P5 makes the first Dutch connection. Normally filling out the tops there. Mark, for some reason in a Mexico flag, finds himself in P6. I'm knackered already, Jamie, I must admit, just trying to figure out what's going on, follow who's doing what, but we're only at Q1.
So good. We're now at Q2, and this will determine what tyres will people start on during the race to the top 2. Will they go for the mediums? We saw some people use the mediums, such as Rudy, so I expect him to go through on the medium tyres as he's used them for 3-4 laps. Don't want to take too much away, but look at that, it's rain, and I did see the clouds gather in at the end of Q1, so I wonder if the clouds gather in and there's rain as well, but there's still dry. I think it's a case where the first driver gets on the track first.
Here we go.
Settle out. Look at that! Everyone's coming out. The 50 drivers are coming out. The advantage that people have is Haas, because they're all the way at the end of the pit lane. And Walter, where's his teammate? Did his teammate go through? I'm not quite sure.
His teammate is Damon, so his teammate is out. We're getting a clear run. All drivers apart from Ruud Gillett in P11 currently. Of course, that is just based purely on random Codemaster selection, but everybody apart from him on the softs. This could be a bold strategy call from the man in the AlphaTauri. Of course, the circuit's going to get greasier. Grip levels are just going to deteriorate every single minute this rain starts to come down. So getting a lap in early on the mediums is going to be hard for anybody to improve upon it. And the big thing here, if you invalidate your first and only flying run on these soft tyres effectively, you're in for a world of hurt improving upon it any kind of time that's been set before.
It's happened before back in France, I remember, and other places as well, where it's just the rain comes in the end of Q1 and Q2, and here we go. The Walter, the first man to cross the line. I think they all have to. They all want to push, but they have to back up as well, just in case they get too close to guys ahead. Oh, Walter's already validated it before turn 1. Took too much. Used all the trackable of it, exceeded track limit, so he's on the back foot already. So that's his qualify. Well, that's his lap done, I must say. There's still got plenty of opportunities just in case other people do a validate behind. But Mark's the next one then. 16.3 in the first sector. He makes his way down into turn 3. Hooks it up very nicely. Can he get a good exit? Yes, he does. Into fourth gear. DRS enabled for this third straight. There's a lot of cars behind. The AlphaTauri is being followed by the Williams. Look at that. All of the straight together.
Just if one of them makes a mistake. That's reminiscent of almost a sprint race here. The gaps the cars are leaving. So
bitter. Yeah.
It could be an interesting one if anybody does make a mistake but still on a lap. If you've got maybe slightly slower.
Yeah, Taze Leroy's has. He's made a mistake. And the McLaren, somebody else has made a mistake. Is that the AlphaTauri? I'm not quite sure, but somebody down there has also made a mistake. And Taze Leroy at the back foot along with Walter. Here comes Mark then as he crosses the line, coming towards the final corner to cross the line to set a 10. Let's have a look, shall we? 106.6. And here Bompier goes quickest with a 6.3. Snell in P2. Andreas in P3. Sieb in P5. And look at the medium runner of P2 of Ruud Gillett. But look at Rudy goes into P1 with a 6.3. Cameron Downs in P4. Snell in P5. Pease in P6. Lark in P7. Andreas in P8. Mark in P9. Sieb in P10. Joshua in P11. Taze Leroy has to go for a lap along with Walter. They might be on the back foot due to the conditions worse on the track as well. Lock up for Walter down at turn 4, but won't affect him too much. But the track might be even greasier, losing the grip levels just a bit. So Walter, Taze Leroy, got to watch out for that. But look at the AlphaTauri of Luke Gill in P3 on the medium compound tyres. He managed to get a lap in and, well, set P3. That's a fantastic run from the AlphaTauri. Het Bompier in P2 as well. What a fantastic run he has had in P2. Seymour Gamer just on the cusp of elimination. Let's see what Walter can do. He's invalidated again! And he's in the pit lane. Where's Taze Leroy? Taze Leroy's coming towards turn 6. Let's see how he takes it. Very cautiously indeed, as you expect, but the rain's getting heavier. He'll be struggling even more. If he pushes somebody out, it'll be his teammate in P10. And I think
another
Rudy
person
might...
that's going to be struggling. Sorry, jump in, Jimmy. Nathan, I don't know if you caught it, actually lost the car on exit of the final corner. So not only is he putting a slow lap time for his first run, it's compromised his run down to the line for his second. But Leroy running up to the line can only muster a 7.5. These conditions are really getting dreadful for the soft runners out there. Nathan going to jump into the pits. Valter, of course, not setting a lap time. And I think we could almost have our top 10 already.
Yep, everybody in the softs except Root Gill on the mediums. He must be happy being on the medium compound tyres in P3. All he needs to have now is a good Q3 if he finds himself further up the pecking order. Further up the better for him. But if he finds himself somewhere like 7th or 8th, surrounded by soft runners, he'll be careful. But there's 2 drivers left on the track. That is Taze Leroy and Troye trying to make something of this qualifying session, but they can't. It's too late now. Walter will start last place unless he can take Nathan's 14th away. A 17.9 is doable in the intermediate conditions. So I think Nathan and Walter might have a race for 14th place, but that's it.
It's not normally what
Wow.
you expect from Q2, is it? The battle for 14 being the main focal feature in the last 9 minutes.
Isn't, is it? But sadly, all the guys won't have a second chance outside the top 10. Sevo Gamer just holding his breath there in P10. But look at the 2 AlphaTauris in P2 and P3. And Root Gill, that was a fantastic that time. Wonder where he got that from. Managed to click on very quickly those medium compound tyres because these mediums in these conditions, they warm up, the softs warm up quicker than the mediums due to being a softer tyre and the most malleable tyre, but the mediums take longer. And being a 1 lap pace as well, that's fantastic because they're usually a race tyre. It can take some time for the mediums to warm up and get into temperature range.
A lot of the drivers now retiring in the pits, as to be expected. Valter has put a set of intermediates on. A gamble on that we'll see the top 13 all retire, and then we'll get the pressure on shootout between Nathan JB and Relentless Valter.
Yep. Battle for P14, here we go.
ESWJR though has also slapped on a set of intermediates on that Alfa Romeo. I don't see him improving or losing out in any position, really, but maybe a little bit of practice for the race potentially, who knows. Nathan slapping on the intermediates as well, those green striped tyres. Good for conditions where there's a little bit of water on the track, rain falling down, but as soon as it gets too much you want to be switching to the blue stripe wet. Might see that in the race if this is an indication of what's to happen. DRS now officially disabled by the race director, and very quiet period in Q2 for us, Jamie. We normally get a little lull in the middle as people wait to do their laps, but nothing quite like this.
It's just unusual for usual, but Walter has just pointed out that him and Nathan are going to have a battle for P14, so it looks like it's on. P14, 1 place up is always better than where you are, so might see those two have some action. They're the only 2 drivers not to retire, so they're just staying in the pit lane and just waiting for each other to go. But Pease is another driver who's got himself in the top 10. No, he's not actually. I'm on the wrong graphic. Never mind. Ignore that. It's Root Gill who's the only one on the medium compound tyres. P switched over to the mediums, but it won't matter anyway. So yeah, everybody except Root Gill will be on the soft compound tyres for the race, and we'll see how it goes. But just waiting for the 2 drivers to retire. If they are going to take part, it looks like they are. It looks like Walter is coming out the pit lane. That's an Alfa Romeo, sorry. So it's actually a Haas driver who's coming out of the garage. It is Walter. I wonder what Nathan's doing. He's still on the soft compound tyre. Now he's switched over to the Inters. But here comes Walter then out of the pit lane. The only driver not to set a lap time, and Nathan not set a representative lap time. I think the Inter tyre will be like 1 minute 12 or 1 minute 13. I'm not quite sure. But 1 minute 17 is definitely beatable on the intermediate tyres. So still got a place to game as Walter. Not good for the championship because Pease is up there in P6 and Rudy's in P1. And many people are expecting Rudy to have a good race around here, get pole position. And Nathan has joined Walter out on the circuit. So all 13 of us are watching Nathan and Walter fight for P14.
All eyes on this crucial battle, of course. If this was the race, this would be the battle for 2 points, 15 points, 15 positions, paying out points. Wouter, interesting enough, invalidating his outlap. Um, if this is the way qualifying's going, I think we could need a calculator to work out who's won the race once all the penalties are applied. But here we go, Wouter going to round that penultimate corner and straight back into the pits.
Oh, what happened to him?
That's a very interesting run into the pits, I must admit.
Almost hitting the safety car.
Very, very close. I wonder if Nathan is going to follow him in, or if Nathan's going to go do his lap. This is almost a game of chicken, knowing that maybe it's best to get the time in as late as possible. Of course, you're not going to have the same rubber build up, but Nathan is going to do a lap, so we are actually going to get to see some sort of car do some sort of lap. It is, of course, the green Aston Martin with those green intermediate tyres on, matching up nicely as he rounds the exit of turn 1. Little turn 2, technically, you can count this as a corner, that little left kink as you hit up the hill. The first, or second DRS activation zone, I should say, at turn 3. Of course, he won't have that in these conditions. A little bit squirrely coming out of turn 3 there, catching the car a little bit with the steering. The run down to turn 4. We've seen many overtakes, many incidents here in the past. Nathan getting a nice turn in early on the accelerator, straighten up that wheel and get that foot flat to the floor for the double left compound section here. This is a very, very tricky place where a lot of drivers invalidate their laps throughout these sections. And watch out for cars during the race going through this section and picking themselves up a nice little 3-second penalty for their troubles. Nathan keeping it between the white lines off the circuit, and now he's just got 2 corners to go. The penultimate corner taking it down into 6th here. Of course, we normally see them take it in 7th, maybe 6th, and then all the way down to 4th for the final turn. That's where he spun out on his first soft lap. Grony managed 117. He does an 11.9 on the intermediates.
I was close. I said 1 minute 12. I was very close.
That's the gauntlet laid down for Wouter as he comes out of the pit now. Of course, the bonus with the intermediates is you don't really need to worry about tyre wear so much. So Nathan can go and do laps to his heart's content as long as he's got fuel. And of course, in these wet conditions, that ERS does come back at a greater speed. You don't need to drain the battery. You don't drain the battery as such, I should say. So Wouter is on an outlap. Be interested to see if Nathan does go again. Of course, he maybe doesn't want to risk getting his rival at all.
Also to mention, Snell in P5, he was on the cusp of elimination in Q2, or Q1 I must say, and now he finds himself in P5 and Q3, so worked out really well for him so far in P5, and let's see what he can do in Q3. Up with the big guys there in the top 10, and let's see how many positions he can gain in the next qualifying session. Nathan JB then making his way around the final corner. Well, let's see if this is an improvement from 11.9 as he makes his way towards the line. It's 11.4, so we found half a second on that lap. And here comes Walter then. Walter right behind him, about to start a flying lap as he makes his way down into turn 1. This is where it cost him when it was the dry period. Doesn't invalidate, but he does double lock up, but it won't affect him too much. Managed to get the car slowed down. Back in the throttle, here we go then. Up towards the hill, towards turn 2. It's more of a corner for MotoGP riders because they do ride around here as they make their way down into turn number 3 then. Double lock up again, and then misses the corner slightly. Gets back in the throttle though. And we're making our way down the straight as we head into turn number 4. Another downhill braking zone. More easy to lock up here than anywhere else. And he double looks the brakes yet again. Get the car slowed down. No ABS. He's really good in the wet conditions because you can slow the car down more easier in the wets. Found that out back in 2019 when I was running the ABS. And Walter then makes his way towards the middle sector. 49.2. Down into 4th gear we go. Up into 5th. Running out wide on the curb. Let's see some people validate before, and to Griff spun there actually in Q1. Walter coming towards the penultimate corner then. Has Nathan improved as he makes his way towards the line? Nathan crossed the line. It's 11.0. Bang on. Let's see if Walter can beat that as he makes his way towards the final corner. Walter's first attempt is 11.1. Only a tenth away from Nathan JB, so very close toward Nathan. Can't believe we commentated this like.
Well, we've only got 2 minutes to go, so only a few laps left to go, and it is currently advantage Nathan JB. That's a very nice time to look at, I must admit. A 1:11, bang on the dot. Wouter 168 thousandths, or just under 2 tenths behind in the Haas. He's on his second lap on the intermediates now. So he's had a chance to put a banker in, find the limit of the tyres, the limit of the track maybe. Let's see if he can improve on this segment. I'm going to jump on board back on Nathan. He's red flashing for fuel, so I wonder if this might be his final run. If he has enough in the tank. He is 3 seconds down on his time, so I believe it might be curtains for him. Valter has pulled out of this lap, I do believe. He was no, he is still going. He was 2 or 3 tenths down in the middle sector on his best time, but of course we've seen the glitch before. He is backing out indeed, and he's going to start up. This will be the final run then. It is all on Valter.
Can he get P14? Let's go. 15 minutes left in the session then, so Walter, all eyes on him to see if he can claim P14 away from Nathan JB, making our way down into turn 1. Their third gear, now up into fourth gear, using that curb to lean on. Let's see if he can beat Nathan JB. It took Walter 1 attempt to get close to Nathan. Nathan took 3 attempts to get towards the 11.0s. Walter, he is 4 hundreds down in the first sector. Double lock up again into turn number 3. Gets the car rotated this time better than he did last time. Oh, massive wheel spin though on the exit, so it didn't quite work out well. And he's lost a little bit of time on the exit of turn number 3. Now making our way down into turn 4. Breaking at the 100-meter board. Double locking again, but it won't affect it too much. More locking on the front right this time into that turn 4 corner. Back on throttle again as we make our way down into turn number 6. Filling it in. 4th gear corner, usually 5th, but it is in 5th now. Experimental at all, and he is 500s up, but not enough on the time he needs to try and get P14 away from Nathan JB. As he makes his way now all the way up the hill into the penultimate corner. Filling it in at the 50-meter board. Use a lot of that curve on the edge. You rest it out on the exit curb. Into the last corner we go. And let's see, can he beat Nathan JB? Let's have a look. It's going to be a 10.8. He does beat Nathan by 2 tenths. So he actually gets P14. And that is qualifying 2 done there. What an exciting Q2 that was. At the start of it, at least.
6 minutes of excitement and 9 minutes of 1 versus 1. You get it all here at CRL. You get absolutely everything when it comes to league racing. But that is our 11th to 15th decided. ESWJR, or Josh, missing out narrowly on his debut for Tier 1 on a top 10 start. Taze Leroy, of course, making a mistake on his first lap, unable to get into the top 10 due to the wet conditions. Troy, similar fate. And then Valter and Nathan both bottling their laps. One at the first corner, one at the last. Found themselves duking it out for P14, and it is advantage Valter. He will start on that 7th row. Nathan had to settle for the 8th row, but still, they will be side by side. And maybe we'll see that battle continue into the race, but it is on to Q3 we go. 12 minutes now for all of the drivers to set their very best lap time to decide who will start P1 and who will start P10. Big question though, is the rain still here? It is indeed, and it's on even heavier. This looks like it could be a full wet session here, Jamie. Something new for all the drivers that have done a lap so far in this quali session. And one thing this does mean for the races, free choice. Oh no, it won't be, because it was free choice for Q2. I'm getting myself mixed up, but it may mean that the drivers have a free choice in strategy. They don't need to be restricted to the amount of tyres to go. If there's a safety car late on, fresh set of softs is ready and well available to them. But it is everybody out on the inters at the moment. It must be borderline for the wet zone, I must say. It's looking very, very damp out there on track.
So is it a case of going out very early and getting a lot of time in before it gets even heavier? Maybe, but first man out there is the Alpine, of course, of Andreas. Andreas has picked up 2 podiums this season. Currently, I think he's where is he in the championship? He's currently in P8 in the championship, just behind his teammate, 5 points behind his teammate Berg, who is not here for tonight's race. Replaced by, who is he replaced by?
Just bear with me. I forgot off the top of my head. He is replaced by Rotation. Starting
Rotation
in P18, I believe.
Rotation, usually an Alfa Romeo driver. And Andreas then making his way towards the final corner. Let's see what lap time he could set. I don't think he's taken a pole position yet, has Andreas, but he could find himself a pole if he could get absolutely spot on in this qualified session. Making his way down into Tier 1, hitting that inside curb. running out wide just a little bit. You can see the back end just stepping out just a little bit as he applies the throttle, making our way uphill into turn number 2, flat out, even in the wet, of course. Now coming into turn number 3, braking at the 100-meter board, get the car slowed down, hit that inside curb, get the car rotated as quickly as you can, use the throttle as well. You see him just upshifting by 2 there to reduce the wheel spin on the exit, trying to get great traction, which he did do, and now making our way down into turn number 4, braking at the 100-meter board again, and put down into 4th gear this time. You can see the back end just stepping out just a little bit as he's sensitive on the throttle, trying to figure out where he can apply the throttle. This is his first time in the wet conditions. Well, this is all the drivers' first time. They're just experimenting where they can push the limits. It's a 49.6 in that middle sector for Andreas. He gets on the curb. They're using all of it without any problems. Some people have invalidated there or spun, and now making their way into that penultimate corner. Last time we had a wet qualifying session in Austria, it was 2020 at the Styrian Grand Prix, I believe, in the second race of that season. And now Andreas then will make his way towards the line. It's going to be an 11.7, and the Red Bull is next across the line of Larkin. Let's see what lap time he sets. 11.9. The Williams and Snell next across the line is going to be P3 with a 12.3. AlphaTauri of Bompia goes P4. Seavlaw Gamer across the line goes P2. Mercedes of Cameron Pease comes across the line, goes P1 with 11.6. Cameron Dowles next across the line is going to be P1 with 11.4. And Root Gilt's next across the line. He's validated his lap time, sadly for him. So both Alfa Romeo and Ferrari next across the line. It is Mark first. Mark will come across the line now to set a 11.6, and Rudy next across the line with 11.12. So there it is then, the first times. The only one that's not set a lap time is Root Gilt within the validation to his neighbours. So Mercedes 1-2 up there, separated by 600s, I believe I saw that was. It was 1/10 actually, 2/10. I got it completely wrong.
600, 2/10. It's close either way.
I was on board with Pease, and he was down by 600s in the first set, so that's why I got confused. But yeah, all the drivers go for second lap time. Doing more than one lap is always better, like it is in the drive. But Andreas has validated it.
Validates that final corner. Larkin into the pits. Snell, is he on for a lap? He is apparently slightly up in his time as he rounds that final corner. Nice little bit of drift on that rear end. Does improve, but not by enough to gain any sort of position. Sieb has invalidated his lap. How about Pease? He's up in his time, can improve and does go provisional P1, but his teammates tight behind him and claims that back with an 11.04, tenths clear at the top. The Scotsman of Cameron Dance. Ruud Gillet goes P3 with a 1:11.642. Mark will be next across the line. He's up in his time apparently, goes P6. Rudy, the final car and this run to go, and he goes up to P4 with an 11.6. And is that a retirement on track for Ruud Gillet? It is. He's lost the car at the exit of turn 1 off into the left hand side there. And P3 will be the very best he can muster in this session, because that car won't be doing any more laps.
Oh, it's a shame there. He has to get a good qualifying session because he is starting the mediums, the only one to start the mediums inside that top 10. So it's pivotal for him to get a really good qualifying session. Further up the order for him is better, but you don't want to find himself surrounded by soft runners. But yeah, the times are dropping as the Snell's coming around the final corner, and then see what lap time he sets. It's going to be better than his last lap should be. Had no wheel spin at the exit of that corner, and it's going to be P7 for the Williams driver. Steve Law Gamer next across the line, and he goes P3 on the second row with Root Gill, pushes him further down. Mercedes driver P's crossed the line to start another lap time. Cameron Dowds is back in the pit lane. Mark out there is going to be in the pit lane too, but Rudy coming around the penultimate corner then. Let's see what lap time he sets in the Ferrari. People's favourite to take pole position. Will it be in the wet though, as he makes his way towards the line? It's going to be an 11.5. Goes P3 ahead of Steve Law Gamer. Good for him. BP's up there. He has invalidated his lap time. There was 3 cars there, that 2 cars for P's to get past. It was Seavlaw Gamer and Snell. Not quite sure if they're in the way, but looks like Snell went off the track and Seavlaw Gamer just managed to get past. And Rudy's got 1/10 quicker, purple in the first sector already, so he's going for another lap time. Here's the Dutchman trying to get ahead of P's. Can anybody get close to Cameron Dowds, who's 4/10 away from the competition? His nearest rival in P2. Looks like he's on form in the dry and in the wet. Man, that's taken pole position before. Well, he hasn't actually. I think it was Liam in the British GP, but it was Cameron who won the British GP. On his return to CRL in Tier 1, Rudy coming towards turn 6. Let's see what his middle sector is like in comparison to his own. 3 tenths up. This could find himself in second place. He just needs to find 2 or 3 more tenths in that final sector if he can. bit of wobble on going on the exit of turn 8, taking that curve. The yellow flag's ahead of us. Hopefully they get it. There we go. Now let's see the penultimate corner. Takes very nicely indeed. Now through the final corner. One more corner to go for Rudy. Let's see if he can get anywhere near time. Cameron Downs' time is going to be a 11.1. He's close, and it's P2 for the Dutchman.
700s of the Cameron Downs' time. The young Scottish man still holding up on top on for, I believe, his first CRL pole in his second part of his CRL career, shall we say. He is looking at the man to beat. Currently out on his outlap again, so maybe more time in that tank. We're on board with XL Larkin here. Currently finds himself in P10, but the matter of a couple of times would be enough to shift him right up into the middle of that pack. See, as he rounds the final corner, he's going to get that foot flat down to the floor, crossing the line. And it is an 11.5 P4. Very solid lap indeed. Andreas, I think, did improve on his time there. I'm not 100% sure. Next to cross the line will be Cameron Downs as he starts his first flying lap. Mark also in a similar position, and then it'll be back to familiar territory because Rudy is on another lap. He'll be the next car to cross the line and set a lap time. Rounding that final bend once again. Foot down, our nice run up towards turn 1. Crosses the line, it's a 10.8, takes provisional pole. 2 tenths of Cameron Downs, of course. Cameron on a lap, expect a reply very, very shortly.
Not now, because he's evaluated his lap time, has Cameron Downs. I think he took too much, went wide than he should have, taken a lot of curb on the entry, using all of the track and more of it than he's supposed to. So sadly for him, he has evaluated his. But Andreas, he is up by 5 tenths in that middle sector, got purple as well. So keep an eye on him. Just need to keep it nice and clean. We've got a Red Bull ahead of us. Hopefully he gets out of the way. Should be XL Larkin. He's just completed his lap time. Yes, he has. Might be a visual distraction, but didn't get fully in the way, thankfully, for Andreas' sake, as he makes his way towards the line now. Let's see what lap time it is. It's a 10.8, and he's on the front row, along with Rudy there. Good lap time. There's more to come as well, because that was his first lap time on a brand new set of the intermediates. Pease is out there. Oh, Andreas has got out wide. He lost the car, the exit of turn 1, taking a lot of curb, and he just put him off the track, but thankfully he hasn't evaluated it. And he might lose a bit of time in the first section, which he has done. But next across the line is the McLaren driver, Steve, who's about to go for a flying lap. We've got more across the line. Snell, the likes of Mark as well, and Rudy. No, that's Mark in P4 who crossed the line. So let's see if anybody can improve on their lap times.
Yeah, Mark jumping up to P4 there with that flying lap, a 1:11.280. 4 tenths of the top run, but the way this qualifying's been evolving, there's definitely going to be more time in that tank. But we are starting to get to the final few runs here. Just over 2 minutes left on the clock. You're talking a 1:11 to 15 lap time, depending on how many mistakes you make. So maybe time for 2 laps if these guys can get them in quick. Boompier jumping up by 4 tenths to go P5 of a 1:11.3. Next to cross the line is Andreas as he jumps in the pits, and it will actually be Pease. Pease rounded the final corner. He's 5 tenths up according to this. I don't know if that's a graphical glitch or not, but he does go P1 with a 1:10.801. His teammate is next to cross the line, rounding the final corner. He only needs to find just over 2 tenths to go provisional pole, and he has. He's found well more than 2 tenths. What a lap.
I was interested about Andreas because Andreas pitted. He's only done 1 lap on a brand new set of inters. He had no fuel light pop up, so he was fueled for a couple of runs, but for some reason he's back in the pit lane. Not quite sure why that is. He won't have enough time to come back out and do his last flying lap, so sadly for him, that is his qualifying over. He's currently sat in P4 as Rudy's on his out lap, and yeah, he's on a brand new set of inters on this graphic. So yeah, closest stages of this qualifying. Snell coming out of turn 3 had massive wheel spin and had to bail his lap. Ahead Bompier makes his way around the final corner now. Let's see what the tree could do as he makes his way towards the line. And it's P6 for the Dutchman. Last lap for him. Can he improve? We've got somebody coming out the pits. That's Andreas. 50 seconds left to go. I don't think he can do it. He can't do it for sure, yeah. But back to the front. Pease has evaluated his lap time. He's got 1 more lap left to try and do something. What about Steve game in the middle sector? I didn't see the middle sector, but we'll see then if this could be improvement from Steve as he makes his way towards that penultimate corner. Last lap for Steve because the fuel light is popping on and makes his way around the final corner line. Let's see what lap time Steve has in his disposal, and it's going to be a 10.5 on the front row along with Cameron Dowds. Williams next across the line. That is Snell going for another lap. Mark next across the line, and he stays with P7, go for another lap. And XL Lark across the line, go for his last lap. Rudy go for his last lap. And the Mercedes of Pease, who is a turn 3. Cameron Dowes has retired from the session, so Pease, I believe, is next across the line, but he's 2,000s down in that first sector then. Needs to find more time for Seaboard Gamer.
Somebody
Spun.
last lap there, he went wide through the first technical corners of the third sector, so that will be qualifying over for the little tree, and Jace barely making it into the third sector before the time ran out. So the final laps here, Pease will be the first to complete his final flying lap.
What's that off as well?
Only a 10.5 up through the middle sector. He's got to find a little over 3, so a big final sector here if he's going to have any chance of snatching pole away from his teammate. Rounding that final corner for the last time of this qualifying session, and Pease crosses the line to set a 1:10.5. Not enough to get pole, and not enough for even P2. Next up, I believe, is Rudy in the... oh no, it won't be at least. Oh, it is. No, it's Mark. I'm all over the joint. Mark jumping up to P6. Then it's Rudy in the Ferrari. He jumps up to P4. Well, stays in P4, but does improve. Meaning Snell in the Williams will be the last car to set their final time. And by the looks of things, he is well off the pace. And that is qualifying over.
Yeah, it's P8 for Snell. Good debut, because in Q1, looks like he just got in. And he's currently being played, so be happy with that one. But... Seaboard Gamer, what a standout performance from him in P2. Look at that, 4,000 separates P's and Seaboard Gamer. We've got Rudy in P4. Rudy, I was on board with him in that last sector, and his car was all over the place. He did go 2 tenths quicker, so it's just a case of last lap didn't hook it all together, and sadly for him, did not find himself a pole. But Cameron Dowes on his return, fantastic return for him in P1. Both Mercedes up there as well, so what a fantastic job. But Roots Gilt in P10, the finish driver, he will start on the medium compound tyres. Not too bad because the top 9 are over the softs. It's just like normal qualified situation, really. But yeah, he would have found himself up the pecking order a bit more, but sadly he made the mistake. So did Larkin. Larkin crashed the exit of turn 1, lost his wheel, and sadly could continue.
All eyes on the race now. What will the weather conditions be like? Will we see dry? Will we see rain? Will we see a mix of the two? Of course, it will have a big implementing strategy, and it is dry, meaning the top 9 will indeed start on the softs. 10th place, Root Gillett, starting on the mediums, and 11th to 20th, having a nice and easy free choice to make. Alternate strategy could be key around here. We've seen it prevail a few times this season. Portugal, with Jeroen making the strategy work very well. Maybe we'll see another driver make that same bold call and go for a last to first challenge. Or we could see absolute pandemonium. Monday night saw some crazy, catastrophic and event-filled race, shall we say, in Tier 3 and Tier 4. Will we see something similar here tonight in Tier 1? Who knows? All I know is it's going to be some good, close, action-packed racing. And I look forward to taking you through it for the next 36 laps, alongside my good friend, Jamie Indigo. Always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure as the timer counts down. And we will get underway with the formation lap and get a first look at what sort of strategy call our drivers are looking to make. Of course, a Mercedes 1-3 here looking very strong. I wonder if there'll be any sort of teamwork. Valter down in P14 having a lot of work to do if he's going to get any advantage on Jeroen's absence. And there we have it. The top 9, of course, restricted to starting on the soft. Root Gillett in P10, forced to start on the mediums. And everybody from Josh in P11 down to T. Griffin P20 opting for the yellow stripe mediums. So very much a grid of 2 halves with a slight imbalance towards the mediums. And safety cars and pit strategy here could be crucial in deciding who comes out on top here in Austria. Cameron Downs will lead us up to turn 1, however, and will set the pace for this formation lap. We're looking at, though, when it comes to strategy around this circuit, of course, 2 bags with the way this is set up. The soft runners P1 to P9, like we said, going a little bit shorter. Expect them anywhere from lap 9 to 14. The medium runners, lap 19 to 24. But that could all change if weather appears like it did in qualifying, or Bert Maylander makes his appearance out of the pit lane it could all switch on a nice little pivot. But the cars are rounding the final few corners now.
Are we ready?
We are
Let's go.
ready and awaiting a nice little grid start here in Austria. The grid's getting a little bit out of shape here. Mark in P6, Luke currently in P2, CP currently in P1. Good old Codemasters, we love to see it. Bit of a gap there development, I think that's from Mark to Boompier. But of course, some of the cars drifting through ahead in front. I hope that's not a desync or a lag issue. We do see it happen every now and again, but they are starting to line up on the grid. Let's have a look at T-Griff. Where is he? He is rounded the final corner and about to take his place on that right-hand side grid start.
Do you want me to take the start?
Go for it, mate. Go ahead.
Tight to tier 1. Only one driver can get through there. Cameron Dowds or Seaboard Gamer. Who gets a better start off the line? We'll find out. We know Seaboard Gamer struggled. Back in Spain, he struggled with the starts. And it's lights out. And away we go. Cameron Dowds gets a lovely launch. Seaboard Gamer has been bogged down like Max Verstappen back in 2019. Pease gets past him. Rudy's alongside him into turn 1 we go. They go side by side. Rudy makes contact with Pease with Steve there, but gets ahead of him as the Mercedes 1-2. Seaboard Gamer is right behind Rudy as Andreas and Mark are following closely. Will Seaboard Gamer go back down the inside? Yes, he will. Down into turn 3 they go. Side by side now. Let's Mark around the outside of Andreas. Rudy gets a much better launch coming out the corner. Joshua's got past Wild, so Taze Nemo's got past Snell. Snell's falling down the order. And Seaboard Gamer stays down in P4. Selling for him, bad start for him. And Bompia fighting with his teammate. They both go side by side, both on different strategies, of course. Hero Gill gets past him for P9. Good start from him. Being on the medium compound tyres, did get swallowed up by the pack on the sauce. Gets ahead of his teammate, Alpha Tyre teammate Bompia. Bompia would definitely love to get past him. Being on different tyres, on the soft compound tyres as well. And Troye further behind has got past Snell. Snell's lost a lot of positions from P8 to P16. He has lost 8 places out for him, so bad start for him. And looks like rotation is about to go through as well. They go side by side in that penultimate corner. Snell just backs out. Not sure if he got damage or not. Looks like he has. Yes, he has. In the pit lane he goes, so he gets out of the way very smartly. But Snell, somebody else in the pits. Nathan JB is also in the pit lane as well from P14 from the grid. And look at the gaps already. Rudy 1.2 seconds behind for Peace. It's pivotal for him to close in with DRS. And Andreas is right behind Seaboard Gamer. There goes Andreas down the inside of Steve. We've seen the same situation as Andreas, almost in the back of Rudy there. But Mark, Steve gets a really bad exit. There's Mark as well. Lap 2, there's no DRS, so it'll be a drag race all the way down. And Seaboard Gamer, just like back in Spain, just can't find settling in a groove, or seems not. But Larkin outbreaks himself, and Root Gill goes through into P7. So Root Gill making good progress at the start from starting in P10.
Yeah, Root Gill making good progress. Really racy, really quick on those mediums at the first initial laps here. Snell having a horrendous start on his debut, having forced into an early pit, going onto the mediums, so we'll need some sort of intervention from the Divine Gods to bring back him into this race, as will Nathan and T-Griff. Rounded through, Cameron Downs putting in the fastest lap as we go on to lap 3. Of course, DRS is now enabled. The first detection zone just prior to turn 1, and we might see a little bit of a train here form from Rudy right down the pack. On board with Rude Gillett, he's making a move on Seeb down the inside using the ERS as Andreas goes for the move on Rudy into turn 3. Plenty of action here already in these opening laps, and the medium runner of Rude Gillett putting on quite the show, making the most of these tyres and working his way right on through the field. You can see up ahead, Andreas defending tight, and Rudy making contact with the Alpine into turn 4. I don't know if there's damage on the front of that Ferrari, but it's certainly going to upset his ribbon, and I think there is, judging by the way he's turning there. Seeb having to back out through turn 6 to avoid any sort of contact on the rear of the Ferrari, so a little bit of chaos already seeping in here, Jamie. Plenty more to come. Pyro is making a move on, no, Pyro he's dropped out, he's spun, and that is a front wing damage for the Red Bull driver. An early pit stop for him. One of 4 drivers already to make that. Larkin hanging onto the back of Seeb. Of course, the DRS kicking in, and it is a traditional DRS train that we've seen so many times around this tier 1.
It's just like 2020, because Mercedes 1-2 just pulling away from everybody. Mark gets past Andreas. Mark into P3 from starting all the way down there. Larkin trying to go down the inside of Seaboard Gamer. Has he got the move stick? He hits the back of Root Gill, and Larkin gets out the corner ahead of Seaboard Gamer. In fact, they both have DRS now on Root Gill. Let's see It's Larkin who gets the corner ahead, and we'll see Roy Gamer go down the inside. No, it's P8 for C4 Gamer from P2 to P8. Same situation. He just can't find a rhythm straight away. Just can't get the groove. It just looks like he's struggling every time he does a start. So he needs to sort that out really quickly. He can't afford to drop it down, especially with the medium runner of Root Gill in P6. He's clicking on straight away, and he's already up there in P6 behind Rudy. But yeah, that was so close between Andreas. I'm not sure. Optimistic move from Rudy there, because Andreas was all the way to the right. He was insistent that Rudy was not going to go down the inside. Ended in contact, but thankfully no full damage, of course. But he's under massive pressure now from Rugu, who's got the pace. Where could if he didn't crash in Q3, where could he have been? Further up, he had a really good start, and he's settling behind Rudy. But he did cut turn 1 though, so that could be a warning early doors for Rugu. So be careful not to do that more than 2 times. And Walter is on the back of C4 Game, another one that started outside the top 10 on the medium compound tyres, and there he goes then on Sieve. Sieve's coming back down the inside, hopefully don't make contact, and there's Rugu on alongside of Rudy then, as we make our way out of turn 3. 2 battles going on at once here. Rudy stays ahead of Rugu, but I think Walter's got ahead of C4 Game, which he has done. Up into P8, further up, Andreas is defending from Mark. In fact, he's got a pass mark, sorry, for P3, and he demotes him down into P4 to go side by side, and I think with the track position, Andreas should stay ahead of Rudy. Good action going on so far between these guys, but the 2 Mercedes in first and second. Lewis Cameron down in P1 ahead of Total Ps. Andreas and P3 defending from Mark there.
Yeah, all this squabbling from P3 downwards is just playing that right into the hands of the Mercedes drivers. Cameron 1.7 ahead of his teammate. P's 4 seconds ahead of Andreas. They've really just checked out already at the early stage of this Grand Prix. So it might be a little bit of a race between the 2 teammates for the top position on the podium as it stands, but a long way to go before we reach there. Ruud Gillett is right on the back of Rudy. That Ferrari gearbox prime in his eyesight as the first penalty comes in. It is Pyro with a 3-second penalty. Ruud goes down the inside, a little tap it looks from the Red Bull of Larkin from behind, just missing his braking point ever so slightly, and that is goodbye to that front wing. Ruud Gillett losing a little bit of time with that contact. Now Wouter is making an attack. Wouter up from P15, a little bit of wheel banging from the 2 of them, but Ruud Gillett holding position around the outside and getting ahead before the entry into turn 6. Further back to Hazy. Leroy getting ahead of his teammate Sieb all the way down to P13 with wing damage. Yeah, disaster stuff. Not able to get in the rhythm like you said, and then just one thing after another. Early pit stop for yet another driver. That'll be 6, if my counting's right, will be forced by the end of this lap to have made an early pit stop. So damage, definitely a common factor around this Grand Prix.
What happened the last lap? Because I was on board with the leader drive. I didn't see any of it. So what happened, Scott?
So it was the run up to turn 3. It looked as if XL Larkin a little bit late on the brakes. So I don't know if it was a lock up. He clipped the back of Ruud Gillett as he was trying to make a move on, I'm not quite sure who it was, and it was just a sort of a late break from Larkin, pushed Gillett into another car, and there was just a little bit of time loss with that, and it gripped the field up a bit more. But I think the rest of the car's getting away undamaged. I'm not quite sure what happened with Sieb if he was caught. I'm assuming he was caught up in a similar incident, maybe a little bit of a chain reaction back down through the field that we always see happen. Yellow flags in the middle sector. That's Damon.
Yeah, it is, and down at turn 4, so I think he got the sort of way too early that the car's likely just lost the rear, or he hit the grass on the outside, and obviously caused him to spin, but sadly for him, he's down there in P16, P40, sorry, with a penalty, of course, as well, but quite a few people pitting as well, further down the field. Nathan, Snell, Sieb, Larkin, and Tegriff, they're all struggling down there. It's quite an unusual race for CRL, isn't it, for Austria, because everyone, like, 2 Mercedes just got away. We don't really usually see that. It's all a big trade. It's a massive fight for P1 as well, but there's no fight with P1 or P2. It's just all spread out between the top 2. But look at Rudy trying to go around the outside. Ruud Gillett trying to go down the inside of Rudy. Rudy gets out the corner better with traction due to the soft compound tyres. But here comes Ruud Gillett. There's a Williams who spun, I think, on Alpine, and Ruud Gillett gets ahead of Rudy for P5. Yeah, Ruud Gillett's really on it tonight, isn't he? And look at Rudy, he's coming back at him. Is he going to go down the inside? No, he's not. Ruud Gillett stays in P5. He's on the charge. Could he find himself on the podium? Does Ruud? Oh, God.
we'll just, how about we stick to Gillett or Ruud, though. Keep it easy for you, Jamie. That spin there, that Alpine, looks to be the Alpine of Ruud rotation, I believe, just losing a bit of traction on the exit of turn 3. Very easy. Done, finds himself down in P13, but I don't think with any wing damage. I haven't had a chance to check because been all eyes on this battle from P3 all the way down to Troye in P12. Robbie going down the inside of Taze Leroy through turn 1 and 2. Very nice by the two drivers, keeping it nice and clean. And Robbie gonna have the advantage heading up the hill, slightly in front. Will have the inside line into turn 3. Already derating though that Aston Martin of Robbie. A little bit of contact there, almost pushing Leroy off the track there. Very close to a sort of wheel-on-wheel lock that we've seen so many times result in a big incident. And here comes Troye into turn 4. Down the inside of the McLaren goes the Williams. Hanging out on what will now be the outside for turn 6. And you'd think this should be Leroy's corner to take, and it seems to be. I wonder though if there could be a little switchback in the move here by Troye at some point. No, he's just going to settle in behind. Been a very unusual race this, Jamie. We've not just seen, like you say, the usual DRS train from first all the way down the pack. We've seen more of gaps develop, and I would almost say more overtaking, but we do have our first pit stop. It is Rudy P8. I think this might, lap 8, sorry, lap 9. This could be the first pit stop purely in strategy. I don't think he had any wing damage. Well, it is a wing damage change.
Yeah. Sorry, Andreas, look at that. He's going to go down the inside, gets on the grass. It's 3 wide into turn 3. And who gets a out first? Andreas outbreaks himself. And here comes the Alfa Romeo back on Andreas. That was intense going 3 wide there, but thankfully they made it out unscathed, all 3 of them. And here comes Vukil on those medium compound tyres. Andreas breaks later, he stays in P4, but one intense battle going on between P3, P4, and P5. Unbelievable. Of course, Gil is on the medium compound tyres, but Taze, Leroy, and Robbie have got themselves in a bit of a tangle there, and both of them just seeing off the track and a bit of gravel on their tyres as well. So I think they both came together. I'm not quite sure what happened between the two, but Ruth Gill, Andreas is committed to the pit lane, I think, or no? No, he's not. I thought he could go to the pit lane, but Ruth Gill is all over the back of him. He's just the midfield as Andreas picks up a 3-second time penalty. The midfield is just so close, and there's so many good battles. Mark in P3 as well. It's just a massive gap between P's and Mark. 5.5 seconds, quite unusual, because this is usually known as a DRS trader. You see massive, well, not small gaps between first to like 10th with the DRS, but the top 2 checked out, get a clean start, and here comes Root Guild then alongside Andreas as they make our way down into turn number 3. Both going side by side. We'll both have DRS on the back of Mark. Who gets a better exit? Both evenly, it looks like it is, but Root Guild then still behind Andreas, trying to make his way past. He has the slipstream in the back of Mark, and let's see who's late on the brakes into turn number 4. Andreas is later. And looks like Andreas has the corner. Unless Wilke get a good exit on the outside, which he does do. And they're still side by side. Good racing between these two. Now they're going to go side by side into turn number 6, but Andreas has to back out of it. Don't think he has the tyres or the tyre temperature for it as he understeers. And Rukil takes 4th place away from Andreas. Unbelievable. Now he's got one more soft one ahead of him until he gets to P's and Cameron Downs does Rukil. Now it's Marston's turn to follow from P14 on the grid. Rukil. I wonder when these guys will pit. Lap 12, the pit stops will be opening soon for the soft runners.
Yeah, you've got to admit it must be a bit more tricky on the softs than the mediums at this stage of the Grand Prix. The softs starting to get to the end of their natural lifestyle. Lifespan, not lifestyle. Wood Gillett going for the move on Mark. On the inside of turn 2, which really turn. Here comes Wouter from all the way back. Up the inside, getting the run on Andreas down the DRS straight and going for a late move on Mark. Just maybe having better grip on those old mediums compared to the old soft. And Mark looking very vulnerable now as Andreas potentially eyeing up a move. No, he's going down the inside of Wouter. I've got myself mixed up there again and actually retakes P4 from his fellow relentless driver. The medium's looking very good here in the eyes of Ruud Gillett and Wouter. Mark almost losing the car on the exit of turn 5, and now side by side round this corner. Not really a turn you can go side by side through, but good driving all round from this Grand Prix. And is Mark committing to the pits? I think he is. He's calling time on those softs unless he's got a little bit of wing damage. Pease is in as well from P2, as is Boompie. So the soft runners jumping in after 12 laps, sitting on a fresh set of mediums. Could we see a little undercut from Pease on his teammate Cameron Downs? There was only about 2 seconds separating them at the front, and this will start to maybe gap out the pack a little bit here, which I'm not hoping for, put it that way. I'm enjoying these battles so far.
Yeah, the last thing Pease needs is a safety car. There's a yellow flag down there, but you don't need a safety car. And being in months with the medium runners, he needs a good race as Pease because he's been unlucky in the past few races. He's retired in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He didn't have the best of race there. Australia as well, and Britain, and also the Monza GP where he's had bad luck. So he just needs a quiet race. Try and get P2, maybe P1 if his teammate does make a mistake. But Cameron Dowds, youngster in F1, high potential, doesn't look like he's on a making mistakes. So he's done a fantastic job so far as Cameron Dowds just stretched his advantage. And yeah, not to be challenged at the front as Cameron Dowds responds.
Contact, sorry to jump in. Contact further down the field. Nathan, Seeb and Snail all going for a battle into turn 4. Nathan getting tagged and spun round at turn 4. That car facing the wrong way. No damage it looks like, but a lot of time lost. Sorry, jump there. Back to yourself, Jamie.
So good, mate, so good. Yeah, I didn't see that, but yeah, I just saw Nathan on the old softs, of course. He's going to come in the pit lane soon, but here comes the Tapeze then. Looks like he's close to Cameron Dowds. He's pushed really, really hard. He's in the DRS range. He's used a lot of EOS. Has Total Pease to try and get in the 1 second range. He has got himself with a 1 second range. He just needs to stay there. But Walter, look at that. He goes for the lead of the race. Andreas is under massive pressure from Joshua. And look at that. It's 3 wide going into turn 4. It's so close. There's a Williams on the inside. Troye. Oh, that was so close to contact there. Joshua, Andreas, and Troye all fighting for P3. Andreas just stays ahead. He's on the soft compound tyres. He'll be struggling. He needs to get himself in the pit lane because he needs fighting with Mark. He's not fighting with these drivers on a different strategy. He needs to find himself in the pit lane, get on a brand new set of mediums and work his way from there. But what a battle between those guys. That was so close. I saw Williams on the grass at one point, which was Troye. And that pit lane is really dodgy, isn't it? I just don't like that pit lane whatsoever.
I'm not a fan of it. It forces the pitting car onto the inside for the penultimate corner, forces the racing car a little bit wider, and it's already a tight corner with the speed they're going. Here comes Josh looking for a move on Troy down into turn 1. Can't quite make it work. For a man that was maybe meant to be reserving in tier 2, I'm glad he's made the jump up and is now reserving in tier 1 because he's looking very, very racy around here, of course. Recently got himself a Fanatec and he has said it is a little bit OP, so maybe that's where the extra pace is coming from, but it's good to see the Welshman up there and battling with a legend, the likes of Troy. Pizzo's closing down that gap ever so slightly in Cameron Downs. This is for the effective net lead. Only 3 tenths between them. Of course, Cameron having a lap better mediums, but 1 lap in tyre wear isn't a huge amount to pay for when you get that 2 or 3 second undercut. I believe it was about 2 seconds P's managed to undercut, just not quite enough. But he has got the advantage now. He can sit in Cameron's DRS, try and save up some ERS and maybe launch an attack later in the Grand Prix, of course. That's only if he can keep with him without the need of ERS. Cameron's sitting on 60% ERS at the moment, so he has got that to defend.
Oh, could be a safety car.
Has retired on track.
Is it going to be a safety car though? This Taze Leroy approaching that incident. Let's see how he's lost it. Did he touch that inside curb? Where is he lost? I can't see. Oh, I don't know how he lost it through there. Maybe went side by side with somebody, but yeah, he's out of the race. No safety car to stop the progress of anybody. But look at Troye, he's right behind Joshua for P3. Cameron Dowds under pressure now from Total P's. He stretched the advantage to Cameron Dowds over Total P's by 2 seconds, but pitting 1 lap earlier has really benefited P's. He can use that DRS like you said and stay behind Cameron Dowds, because once you're out of the DRS range, it's really, really hard to catch up. And you just need that pure performance. It's really, really hard because you're pushing as hard as you can, use the ERS, but once you used all of it, it's very hard to save on your own. And that's why you need the DRS. And that's what Total Peace has got. He can stay behind Cameron Dowds, try and regenerate some of that lost ERS he used, as he used a lot of it 1 lap before Cameron pitted, and it's benefited him a lot. So now he's in the DRS, stay behind him before a few laps, then put pressure on him and try and battle him for the lead. So both Mercedes are fighting for P1 and P2 of this race. Meanwhile, Groot Gill is still under pressure from Wilder right behind in P2. One of the worst fears for Cameron Dowds and P's, and the rest behind him is a safety car later on, because the medium runners, the ones that started on him, can go on the soft compound tyres and they won't really help the likes of Cameron, P's, etc. But Cameron is 8 tenths behind Robbie, as Troye has got past Joshua. Cameron has DRS and he needs to get past Robbie, but the thing is though, once he gets past, Total P's has to get past him as quickly as he can, because you don't want to spend any time behind a driver that's on a different strategy. We've seen it plenty of times, Portugal, Spain, Bahrain, wherever you go, you don't want to be stuck behind somebody on different tyres than you, because the driver ahead could pull out a 1 second gap and all your progress is undone. And you can see Cameron Dowds is right behind Robbie.
Absolutely. Cameron needs to clear Robbie as soon as he can because he risks getting back up, and he already looks like he's been backed up ever so slightly into Pease. Of course, Pease will have to do the same. And the big risk here is Robbie is still running his own race. I mean, a safety car here, he would be net in front. He looks as if he did back out there and just surrender the position. No, he's not going to be able to fight Robbie. A very intelligent driver in that aspect.
Oh,
Does
lost it.
Did he lose it, or was he just getting out of the way? I'm not too sure.
No, he almost lost it. He almost lost in the exit of the last corner, but thankfully saved it. The starship oversteer from Robbie, but he saved that car. That was so close to the wall, but thankfully, not for the total Pease's sake, he's got a pass, but something's happened with the McLaren further down. Taste Leroy has gone for a spin, and Walter takes the lead of the race from Root Gill is coming back on Walter. Walter tried to make a move in turn 3, but he's got back into turn 4. I hope he changes his name. Rudy and Mark are fighting, and Mark's got past Rudy for P8 of the race. Rudy has DRS, Mark hasn't, so he might get him back into turn 4. It looks like he will with the ERS advantage as well. Down into turn 4 we go. Let's see then, has he got past him? More yellow flags, that's it. Hopefully Taze Nero don't cause a purple safety car, because that could spoil things for everybody, or just change the face of the race, which you don't really want. You want a legit safety car, that makes sense. But Total P's then, crucially for him, got past Robbie in the right place. But Cameron Dowes has caught up to the battle with Joshua and Troye. And Joshua's not going to give this place up because he's got Troye. He's fighting with Troye ahead of him. Joshua's not using the DRS. He's turned it off now. He's turned it on. But yeah, he's not going to slow down because Troye is right ahead of him. You don't want to slow down because you lose that 1 second range of DRS. So Cameron Dowes will go through. Crucially for Total P's, he has to go through as well. Robbie's putting a brand new set of softs on the medium stint, and here comes Total P's then going down the inside. He has to make this move regardless. He can't afford to stay behind him. He's got ahead of him. Now he needs to forget about him and get on Cameron Dowes' tail. Cameron Dowes will have to overtake Troye, which he does do, and P's will have to follow. But Joshua is actually to fight back on Total P's. Total P's does not want this fight. In fact, Josh goes down the inside of Total P's. Should he fight him? Because Total P's, when he fights Troye, he will slow his progress down and allow Joshua to get closer, if that makes sense, fighting with Troye. So that's cost him a little bit as Total P's, who would not want that whatsoever, but thankfully for him, he's got ahead and stays ahead of Josh. I don't think he was expecting him to come back down the inside, and he had to use a lot more ERS than he would have wanted. Now it's his turn to get past Troye, as Root Gill is in the pit lane from the mediums to softs, trying to do the undercut on Walter, and Cameron Downs has pulled away, and that's not going to help Pease whatsoever. That's what happens when you get in a fight with these guys, because some of them let you go and some of them really want to fight you, and as proven there, Joshua did not want to let go.
Yeah, Josh fighting there, losing a lot of time for Pease, and ultimately losing a bit of time on Troye as well himself. I think you're right in saying it would have been better just letting Pease go on the exit of turn 3, hooking in behind that Mercedes, saving maybe a little bit of ERS down the straight, using Pease's slipstream and DRS to pull him along, and wait for Troye and Pease to start battling to stay and take advantage of that. Pease now crucially outside of that 1 second gap to Cameron Downs, 1.2 seconds, and Pease very low on DRS. It's going to be very tricky for him to pull back that gap. Cameron Downs though has dumped a lot of that battery. He's only on 20% himself, but it's still 10% more than what Pease has to offer, and without that ability to sit in the DRS and save up any ERS, it's going to be tricky for Pease to close it down that gap. Still a long way to go though in this Grand Prix. Robbie and Rut Gillett both onto the softs. Troye now jumping into the pits to put on the softs for his final stint. So starting to get to the business end of this Grand Prix here. Cameron Downs and Pease, your net 1 and 2. Wouter still having to pit, as does the 4th place Josh. Rudy may be able to stretch those mediums just to the end. They'll be a little bit screaming, but a chance of going right to the end. The likes of Seb and Larkin, however, as well as Snell, Damon and Tigriff, all definitely, I would say, will have to pit again. But aside from that, it's a sort of final running order. Cameron Downs hasn't caught back up to Wouter, and look at that, he's pulled out a gap on Pease by 4/10 this lap, just by not having Pease stuck in his DRS and maybe getting a little assist off the Haas driver. Wouter with his DRS.
Oh, Pease has picked up a 3-second time penalty, really pushing that limits on the Mercedes, but Cameron Downs got to be careful not to make contact with Walter as he's headed the pit lane. Yeah, it's not helped Pease whatsoever. That battle with Josh has really compromised Pease. Really wanted to get ahead of him and ended up fighting with him. They didn't want to, but yeah, still a Mercedes 1-2. Pease still in second place, got a massive gap behind. And we'll see then Walter on the soft compound tyres. Where is his main rival? Groot Gill is coming down the main straight now. He's stuck behind his teammate and a few cars. There's a massive DRS straight ahead. And Walter rejoins. Where is he? I can't find him. He rejoins coming out the pit lane. And he's way behind Groot Gill, who gets past Head Bompia. And Mark's got past Rudy for P3. Battle for the podium pay positions. Groot Gill's got a benefit of this because he's on a fresher set of the soft compound tyres. So we can capitalise on them and try and get his way through these cars. Rudy gets back past of Mark. Groot Gill trying to go around the outside of Andreas. He's going to get a better exit being on those soft compound tyres. More grippier. Let's see then. Yes, he does. Goes side by side, coming down into turn 6. And be careful not to make contact with some of these drivers because they're really, really close. Andreas is still there, but Gill up into P5 he goes. And crucially, he's still ahead of Walter, so Walter lost a lot of time, stayed out one lap later than Groot Gill.
Shows you the power of their about 3 seconds, especially. I mean, you're always going to lose time when somebody goes into a fresh set of mediums. When they go in a fresh set of softs, the difference in time between a fresh set of softs and an old set of mediums is astronomical. And Root Gillett making full advantage of that. He's now cutting his way through this pack. Of course, once he gets past Mark and Rudy, he's 11 seconds off the front two. Now, I'm not going to be a pessimist here, but I think that could be a little bit too much for him to catch up, even with the tyre advantage of being on the softs. He does go for a nice move on Rudy down into turn 3. A little bit of wheel banging between the two cars here. Mark a little bit in front thanks to that, but I don't think it's going to last the lead the Alfa Romeo has on the two cars behind him. Gillett does make it up into P4. Valter is slowly catching up this train behind us. Troy and Excel Larkin are battling for P10 at the moment. Lots of mini little battles all over the field, but the big one is this one in the midfield, of course. P3 all the way down to P7, and I expect that could go all the way down to P11 soon, because you've got the soft runners of Valter, Robbie and Troy slowly but surely closing in, and they'll bring along Larkin and Seeb and maybe even Josh. So we could have a P3 to P13 battle at some stage this Grand Prix in the dying stages. Valter there showing the pace those softs have, popping in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, but Troy snatching that away shortly after. Root Gillett going for the move this time, down into turn 3. Rudy looking down the inside, making it almost free wide. Root Gillett getting ahead before the corner apex, and now it's going to be battle for Mark to try and defend as many positions as he can, because here comes Andreas. Could it be P3 to P6 in a matter of one corner and one straight for the young Maltese driver? He's trying to defend around the outside against Rudy, getting a little bit of contact between the cars there, and it is down to P6 for Mark.
Yep, just a lot of battles going on so far. Root Gill getting up into P3 crucially ahead of those medium runners, and now he can try and pull away, get himself out of that 1 second range of DRS and let those continue their fight further down while he pulls away and try and close that gap between the top two. 11 laps to go, could be a massive stretch. Those soft compound tyres will have to come to end of their peak performance once he gets up to them if he does, but yeah, the top two are really comfortable so far and just running their own little race. P is definitely trying to close that 1 second range gap. He's just hovering around the 1.1, 1.2. I really hope he can get himself in the 1 second range of DRS, have a good fight between the two Mercedes battle, but Walter is right behind Bompia and goes around the outside. Into turn number 3 we go. Does he get ahead? Yes, he does. And Andreas is defending from Mark further behind. Rudy's still putting pressure on Root Gill, because once Root Gill's tyres start to come to the end of the peak performance, they'll be equal of tyres, and looks like Mark trying to go back on Andreas. Andreas outbrakes himself and Mark get a switch back. He does. Trey has got past Robbie for P9 of the race. Andreas stays in P5. A massive battle going on between P3 all the way down to P10. The rotations picked up a 3 second time for the two as well. But P is in P2. This is really crucial for the championship, having a clean race, because he's been in some of his instances not his fault, but the Saudi Arabian one, he turned in too early in turn 1 and lost his wheel. But yeah, it's just a shame he's had those incidents, and now he's having his own little race in P2. What could really hurt him though is a safety car, because the whole pack could bunch up together. Plus, he's got a double start behind his teammate if they do come into the pits on the softs during the end of this race as well.
Absolutely, that could be the killer for his race there. That 3 second time that will really hurt him, because it's almost, he's still got the push out obviously to try and keep the gap to the guys behind, not make any silly mistakes, but at the same time it's unrealistic unless Cameron picks up a penalty. that he's going to be able to claim P1. He's going to need some extraordinary circumstances, I would say, to snatch that away. But of course, it only takes 3 warnings for Cameron to get a free second penalty, and then everything could be to play for. But what is to play for right now is this P3 at the moment. Andreas, of course, in maybe the worst position of the lot. Again, another one with the free second time penalty. But what you're saying earlier on there about the softs, the soft tyre come to the end of their life cycle. Gullit, Gillett. I can't. Ruud Gillett, that's the name. Jeez, we're making a butcher of this tonight, Jamie. He and Wouter on the softs have really got to take advantage of these tyres while they still have the nice, malleable rubber. And before they start to overheat, before they start to degrade to an extent where the mediums actually become the better tyre. And to be honest, looking at that, well, I was about to say looking at Wouter, that might be the case already, but Wouter going for a lovely move down the inside into turn 3. But Rudy's doing very good, I must say, hanging on to the back of the Alpha Tauri at the moment on the mediums. And if he can just bide his time here, there's going to be a point where he's going to have the preferred tyre. And that could give a nice opportunity for Rudy to sneak back onto the podium and collect another P3 for his championship fight. Of course, he's still in this, as is Wouter, as is Peace. This is a crucial race for all 3 of them, because they've got 3 points on your own tonight.
Indeed, and I expect Dre's to have better tyre life than all of them because he's 5 laps younger than Rudy's and only 5 laps younger, older, I will say, to Ruud Gill. So it looks like Andreas is in a comfortable position, but he's not because he's got a 3-second time penalty on his name. The latest to pit as well, and he's in P5. So once the tyre life starts to affect possibly Ruud Gill and Rudy, Andreas will be there to pick up the pieces, and Walter's there in P6 as well. Mark, 40 lap all ties, he's got on the grass, did Mark before turn number 2. But yeah, Robbie and Choye, I've been noticing those two having their own little scraps for P9 and P10. They're on the soft compound tyres, but Choye almost went to the back of Robbie, almost outbroke himself, but thankfully did not hit the back of Robbie. Robbie's had some bad luck as well in racing. Just needs to find some good results, does Robbie, to pick up his confidence and boost his mentality as well. He's been on the podium about a few times, but sadly due to race post penalties, dropped him off the podium. Currently in P9, not really wants to be, but it's been a clean race for him so far. Didn't have a perfect qualifying session either, maybe it's this track or something like that, but he's fighting along in the top 10 with Joshua in the P11. Several Gamer standing for him for the second race showing in Spain as well, where he started high in the top 2 or top 3. Just didn't seem to have the first lap opening pace or just get into the groove straight away. He just seemed to drop down. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's too nervous in the first lap, trying to make it cautious. If he's a cautious driver in the first lap, making sure he don't get involved in any mistakes and all that. When everybody's aggressive on the first lap, he just taking it nice and easy. That just cost him or something like that.
Maybe so. Just like you say, a bit cautious, not going for maybe the moves, not maybe positioning the car in any way aggressive, risky. Like, of course, there will be times that it will go against you, but position in the opening laps is so crucial because it sort of sets up who you're going to be fighting for that stint. You could be the quickest driver, but if you're in P20, you've got the battle ahead, the 19 in front of you, and it just seems to be Seeb's downfall. His qualifying pace is up there with one of the best in the division, I must say. Like you say, a couple of times starting up in the top 2, top 3, top 4 quite often, just lacking it on the opening laps. On the other hand, Robbie seems to be lacking a little bit on the qualifying pace. I think it was P19, P18. He was down that end of the grid anyway at the start of this one. And fair enough, there's been a few incidents, there's been a few mistakes here and there, but P9 isn't too bad to be able to work your way through the grid on a night like this. Very unlucky so far this season, like you say, a few unfortunate penalties costing him some big points. Seeb picking up a 3-second time penalty there as well, 22 laps on those mediums. They'll be starting to come to the end of life. T-Griff, 26 lap on his mediums, so they'll be starting to scream, help me, get me changed anytime now. But I wonder if it's worth going for a set of softs. Of course, a safety car could change all that, but lap 30 anyway, we've only seen 2 retirements, only one of them on track. Despite the little scrappy battles here and there, it's been a relatively clean race. Wouter, as I say that, making slight contact with Andreas on the exit of turn 6, and again on the exit of turn 7, just a little bit of wheel banging, almost unsettling the car, the Alpine, but 2 drivers, very experienced, knowing exactly how to react to avoid any sort of huge incident there. Wouter having to settle back in behind, and I would say the advantage is definitely swinging towards the medium tyres, particularly Mark, Boompier and Andreas just having that shorter lifespan on the tyres already. P's further up ahead, 1.1 seconds still behind Cameron. Cameron just doing a nice little bit of race management at the moment. It seems using ERS, both of them using ERS just to hold each other at arm's length, I suppose. And Wouter finally getting past Andreas here, but final 6 laps here, Jamie. Do you think there could be another final big twist in this Grand Prix? Or do you think it's just going to be another bit of plain sailing here for Cameron and P's out at the front, and then a battle for P3? Of course, the pack in P3 slowly closing in that gap, but not going to be quick enough.
I don't know. Last season, I think I remember the race when Nathan got on the podium. He was on course to win the race, was Nathan, but I think it was contact to the final lap with a newcomer. I can't exactly remember who it was, but anything could happen, and you never know. Safety car might play out, but there's only a few laps left till the safety car will be called off, because I think lap 34, safety car will not come out. So we wouldn't have laps for any hope of a safety car. 3 second time penalty though for Josh down there in P11, who's 4 seconds behind Troye. Troye and Robbie having their own personal battle down there in P9. But yeah, look at Pease. He just can't seem to get that 1 second gap. Like every time Pease gets close to it, Cameron Downs just seems to respond. That's just the way it goes. It's so hard to get himself. Just pure pace is hard. You can see just lacking the ERS. There's no way you can save it, because you have to use the ERS, but at the same time you have to save it, which you can't, because you're just on your own. And it's very hard to save the ERS at any track, indeed, especially at Portimao as well. To Griff's in the pit lane, 29 laps on those medium compound tyres, went for a very long stint. And now he changes over to the soft compound tyres, so expect him to set the fastest lap of the race. But Rudy Guilty down in P3, defending from Rudy. We wonder how those soft tyres will help him during the later stint of this race. Router in P5 was quite far behind in the pit stops, behind Rudy Guilty in P3. And now he's essentially the back of him, just Rudy in the way. Can he find himself on the podium?
Is closing in on that Ferrari now, not quite able to make the move stick so far. He did battle with Andreas for quite a few laps, and it seems he's hitting the same road though on Rudy. Of course, he's got to get past Rudy and Ruud Gillett if he's going to have any chance at a podium here. But the AlphaTauri not quite taking off the same way I'd expect them to. Rudy has been saving ERS behind him very, very well, up to 60%, so he shouldn't have too much issue either attacking or defending whenever he wants to. And they almost goes for a move on Ruud Gillett as Wouter has to switch back to the outside to avoid getting squeezed off the track there. They all settle back in once again. You can see with Wouter's braking, he is still able to brake slightly later into certain corners. Then the medium runner in front of him, of course, 12 lap difference on the tyre life between them. Two very different compounds reacting differently at the different stages of their life. So not a huge difference in the tyre performance at this stage of the Grand Prix. Round and round. 3 laps still to go as they round the final corner here, and the battle for the podium still well and truly on. 3 laps to go. Any one of about 6 or 7 drivers could theoretically claim it here, depending on how the action unfolds here. It's really making for a move down the inside. As
3 wide.
3 wide. Rudy going to get squeezed in the middle, keeping it relatively clean, and now it's a drag race down to turn 4. Look at that, that's an absolute beautiful sight to see. Wouter on the inside, Rudy on the middle, and Ruud Gillett on the outside. He's going to drop down behind both of them. Wouter defending on the inside now, choosing to defend instead of trying to continue the attack on Rudy. And Ruud Gillett now going down the inside into turn 6, almost making contact with the rear left of the Ferrari. A little bit of wheel banging between the Haas and the Alfa Romeo, giving each other enough room though, so nobody's getting any pains. But again, little taps here and there, and they settle back in. Rudy, the big winner of that battle. I think only second to us all sitting watching at home. And look at this train right until the end. It's a bit of a shame, Jamie, that the race isn't going to last longer.
What's happening here? Oh, what's happening here? Rudy's slowing down. He does not want he wants DRS, and there's contact being made. Those games, I saw Rudy's done this type of thing before, where he's back tight. He wants the DRS. He was slowing down purposely on the straight to allow Root Guilt through, but Root Guilt wasn't falling for that one. And Andreas finds himself back in P3 despite being further down. There's all sorts of chaos going down here. Look at that, it's two abreast each of them. And Rudy and Walter
Oh,
side
and
by
a
side
big
now.
collision with Root Gillett losing it on the exit of turn 3 and cutting across into Mark under wheel spin. Too late for a safety car, but that's a big collision there. And ultimately, coming from that little engagement at turn 1, Alfa Romeo is now out of this race and Mark has severe damage.
Yeah, that little mess was due to Rudy's little games with the DRS. We saw that in Bahrain. I don't know if it was this season or last season, I can't remember, but he wanted the DRS. It was quite clear. He slowed down purposely on the straight, but Mark would not be happy. Root Guilt was on course for a podium because Andreas has got a penalty, but that's just a massive shame for Root Guilty there. I didn't see the crash between the two. I was on board with Walter and Rudy, but the battle for P3 is still on. You can see Andreas in P3. He will not get a podium because he's got a 3-second time penalty, sadly. But Rudy then defending for Walter. It'll be Rudy or Walter. Walter going to go down the inside. They both make contact, and Rudy's almost gets sent to a spin. But they both get the corner. Rudy a little bit of wheel spin there. It's going to all lead down into turn 4. Will Walter go down the inside into turn 4? Looks like he's too far back unless he wants to send it, of course. But no, he is way too far back to make a move. Head bomb here in P6. We're not talking about head bomb here much, but he's done a fantastic job in P6, been on his own. Williams has spun coming out of turn number 1, and that is Snell, who's had a lot of incident. It's rotation, Nathan are fighting, and Damon are fighting, but Cameron Downs then the main man of the afternoon. Cameron Downs will come across the final corner to win the Austrian Grand Prix. Pease will come home in second place ahead of Andreas. Will not keep the podium. Will belong to Rudy in P4, but will that be an investigation? All the mess went down to Rudy in turn 1. Rudy will finish in P3, Walter P4, Head Bompio in P5, Troye in P7, ahead of Robbie. Those two had a good fight between themselves. Joshua P9, Mark with damage will get overtaken by Exo Larkin down. Oh, Seavill came hit the back of Mark, and Larkin will finish P10, Mark P11, Seavill P12, but Nathan will finish in P13. Ahead of Damon for P14. Rotation P15, they're still fighting, but it looks like they sort themselves out as Nathan's able to take away P14 from Damon in the house. And rotation will finish at P15, and Griff will finish P16. And Snell, who's gone for another spin, down in P17. But on his day,
rotation giving us some acrobatics across the line. Rotation going for a rotation as he crosses the line. I love to see it. T-Griff fall in suit, and now it's all eyes on Snail. I don't know if he'd been too keen on all eyes on Snail, but regardless, debut in the league. P17, not quite going to plan. Get the car home, young man. Just get around these final few corners and it's all good. No points for P17, but still, I'd admire his resilience despite having a few unlucky events in this race to bring the car home. But Jay, what did I say? Did we have a nice little final twist in the Grand Prix? I think we did. That instant, lap 35, turn 1, the DRS chicken. It certainly spiced things up towards the end.
yeah, it did. I wasn't surprised with the DRS train. It's so powerful around here. Rudy saying, "Come on, Root Guilt, go through." Root Guilt's like, "No, I'm not going through. You stay ahead of me." And it all went off down there. Sadly, 2 of them got involved in an incident, which was Mark and Root Guilt. Yeah, it was all a mess down there, and could that be an investigation? I'm not quite sure. But good job to Cameron Downs, led majority of the race, of course. In fact, nearly all of it, with the medium runners staying out, doing the optimal strategy. P's in P2, he would love that. Nice and quiet race for him, other than that moment with Joshua. He would want to fight with Cameron Downs, but nevertheless, he's done a good job. Picking up 3-second time penalty. His worst fear was a safety car, but that never came. Rudy in P3, Walter in P4 for P14, Head Bompio in P5. The Swedish drivers Andreas and Troye will finish P6 and P7 ahead of Robbie in P8. Joshua finished P9, Mark in P10, silent for him. Larkin in P11, Seeb in P12, started P2 but just went downhill after lap 1. Nathan in P13, Dave in P14, to Griff P15, rotation P16, Snell in P17, B retirements, which was Real Guilt, and Tage Leroy and Pyro.
Driver of the day then, Jamie. Who would you award it to? Personally, me, it's a toss-up between 3. Cameron Downs led the Grand Prix amazingly, kept everybody where he needed them to be, pole to flag, perfect race. Valter P14 to P4, on track, picking up no penalties again, making his way through the field with the alternative strategy. And then the man that didn't actually finish, Ruud Gillett, I think he's a big contender for driver of the day. Yes, he didn't finish, but running a very smooth race until that little incident, shall we say, with the DRS checking at turn 1, the lap 35, and then unfortunately losing the car, maybe as a little, maybe an overreaction from the drivers. I know, we know ourselves, Jamie, it's, although it's just sitting at home on your steering rig with the F1 game on, it can get a little bit passionate and a little bit frustrating at times, and maybe a little bit of that, but all three of them deserving of it in my eyes. What about you, Jamie? Who would you give your vote to?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But hello, Leslie. Nice to see you in the comment chat. I was commentating earlier with him, but yeah, not with him earlier, but helping him. But yeah, I'm not quite sure with the driver of the day. That's it. Cameron Dowd, Rudy, Walter. I'm not sure. But yeah, like you said, there's multiple people that could be on the list for that. But Cameron Dowd, what a fantastic drive for him. He's returned back to race in the second race, and he's won it as well for the British GP and here in Austria. But I think most of the comments tonight will be talking about our pronunciation with
yes, a certain driver
yeah.
who we won't. I think for our own benefits, we won't speak of until I can get some clarification on how you say it. Maybe it's our accent's not going well with the finish. We'll put it down to that, Jamie.
Supposed to be a football player, and obviously I'm not a football fan, so I have no idea who it is.
Well, I can tell you that his name will be getting changed in the CRL server to Rudy Tutti or something like that. I can almost guarantee it. But we do have our podium sitters in for a little chat. I suppose we'll start off with P3. Man in the Ferrari, it's of course Rudy back on the podium once again. I suppose, Jamie, I'll let you lead the questions this week. It's quite an action-packed Grand Prix. You'll be the man with the questions loaded in the gun.
I'll go from P1 to P3. So
Alright.
are they all here?
They're all here. Yep, they're all in.
Yep.
Cameron Dowds, you there?
Yeah.
Well, Cameron Dowds took pole. You didn't take pole, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you took pole position, led the whole race from there on in, and that was it. Just nice, tidy race. Well, just tell us, how'd your race go?
It actually wasn't as tidy as it seemed. That I had to fuel save the whole race. I put in 0.7 because I thought you could save around Austria, but that turned out different. And literally from like lap 7, I knew that I wasn't going to make it to the end, so I was lifting and coasting the entire race to try and make it, which luckily I did. I think I had like 0.01 fuel at the end. Like I was on the limit. If I'd have went any faster, I would have run out. But luckily, I wasn't under pressure that much anyway because P's had that 3 seconds, so I could just kind of cruise along. And I knew if I had over like, well, plus 0.01 coming into like the penultimate corner, I'd be fine because P's had 3 seconds. But yeah, it was a fun race. P's was pressuring me the entire time. It was hard to keep him out of DRS, but I did. I felt he had slightly more pace towards the end just because of that fuel saving that I was having to go through, and even if I wasn't, I think he would have still pressured me anyway. So yeah, it was a fun race and Peace did well.
And also, with you underfueling the car, was you anticipating a safety car?
Yeah, I was. I'm really surprised that there wasn't a safety car.
Once you got P's in your DRS zone, did you think you could get him out of it?
No, but luckily the traffic managed to come in quite clutch, so I was able to get away, because if that traffic wasn't there, he would have stayed in it and DRS'd me the whole race, because she had very good pace.
Were you ever nervous about making contact with those guys ahead because they were running their own race and none of them were willing to give up?
I was a bit scared trying to pass Robbie into there, but luckily he backed out. But I wasn't really worried apart from that, no.
Congratulations on your race. You dominated the whole race, and yeah, hopefully you get more competition next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolute pleasure to have you back on the top straight of the podium, Cameron. Again, well done from me and Jamie. I suppose we'll move down to P2 now. One of the championship contenders, it is of course our very own Peas, Total Peas, Mr. Peas. How are you feeling after that race, mate? Solid P2. Your main battle, of course, being with Cameron. You two kind of checked out early doors. Solid 33 points in the board as well. That's got to feel good, especially with Urine not being present tonight.
Yeah, I'll take the points, but it wasn't the most entertaining race because it was like just watching the gap between me and Cameron stay the same for 36 laps and then getting in his DRS seeing traffic, losing the DRS, and from there I was trying to just not get more warning because I think when I got that penalty, I think I got like 4-5 warnings just straight up. But yeah, it was alright. But yeah, I'll take it. Mercedes won. I don't think I had the pace to win anyway. I think Cameron's faster than me, but we'll take the second.
We fought for a second, or maybe on for a little battle. Of course, you went for the undercut, catching up about 2-3 seconds, keeping in that DRS, but the traffic was the sort of undoing of that. So I'm assuming by the answer to your last question, you didn't really think at any point it could have been a battle. Were you maybe a little bit worried about a late safety car spoiling things, especially with that 3-second penalty you had?
Yes, very. And from what I was hearing in the party, the racing was interesting. So I was just praying I didn't see one yellow flag into a safety car because then, even then, I was a second behind Cameron. So even if we've got the time to pit, I'm getting double stack regardless. So it would have been a whole nother story. But thankfully, it happened.
Thankfully, indeed, not too many on-track incidents or retirements, shall we say. So fortunate with that. After this, if my calc's right, you're about 61 points off your own and a little bit less off Wouter. Running into the last half of the season, how's your shots at the title feeling? You must be, maybe not confident, but you must be anticipating it.
Well, Imola's next, or one of the next few tracks, so you're going to win that for by 35 seconds. So I'm scrubbing that off. But other than that, I think I can bring it to him. Hopefully, maybe, if I don't die.
Of course,
But yeah, no,
Abu
it'll
Dhabi
be
next
an
week.
interesting end.
Imola the week
Abu
after.
Dhabi, I'm finishing P18.
Loving the confidence. That's all from me, to be fair. Jamie, anything for Mr. Peas?
Peas, when you pitted, was you expecting that undercut to be that powerful? Because you were like 2 seconds behind Cameron before that pit stop. You made that pit stop, and all of a sudden you ended up like 7/10 behind him. Was you expecting that undercut to be powerful and be right behind him?
No, and I wasn't even trying to undercut Cameron. I was more looking at Rudy because he went pretty early, and I just had it in the back of my mind. I just don't want him in my DRS because that becomes a whole other problem. But in the end, I managed to catch by like 2 seconds in on my outlet. I guess it's because Cameron was fuel saving, but yeah, from then it was just drive.
Do you think when you caught up to Cameron after the pit stop, do you think there was any chance of victory for you?
Yeah, for a split second, and then my warning started stacking up, and then the penalty came, and then it was game over from there.
Were you frustrated when ESW Josh was on the back of you because you overtook him and then he came back at you? You must be very frustrated because you want to clear him straight away, don't you?
Yeah, that made life a bit harder, but I think even if he hadn't come back at me, I still had Troy to deal with in the last like this. I would have lost the DRS regardless, which is bad positioning.
You've had bad luck in the recent past races, such as Saudi Arabia as well. But it's nice to see you back up there, and it should boost your confidence because I know you hadn't had a good time around here. So nice to see you up here.
Saudi Arabia is not bad luck. That was just me not using my 3 brain cells. But other than that, yeah, I've been unlucky, but yeah, we moved.
Congratulations on P20, mate. I hope it goes better for you in the next upcoming races because you deserve it.
Thank you.
I love that honest description of the incident in Jeddah. But yeah, thanks for joining us again, Peas. Another P2, solid 33 points on the board. Now final down to the bronze step on the podium, Rudy. Quite an interesting race, Rudy. A big battle for that P3 all throughout the Grand Prix. I suppose quick summary of how your emotions and your feelings were throughout was there must have been times of just pure adulation and excitement and times of pure dread.
Yeah, honestly, I start at the start. That's where it all went wrong. Basically, I got ahead of Seep. Then he tried holding it around the outside, and I hit him, and I got damage. And then that's why, Peace and Cameron were able to get away. And I was just trying to stick with the guys with the damage, and our pace was really good. I had so much pace, so even with the damage, I was able to stay with them. And I knew I was gonna lose 5 seconds when I would pit. So yeah, that's why I boxed early to gain those 5 seconds, which I managed to do. And yeah, I was a bit annoying with Mark and myself. He wasn't really. I was afraid that the soft runners would get us at the end, which of course you saw that got close. But he wasn't really helping with trying to get a gap. But honestly, that's like one of my best performances in CRL, because after I had damage, I thought it was over and managed to stick with the guys. And then at the end, I was just fighting for my life because Ruti got ahead of me, and my tires were dead, and I was just hanging on, trying to stay with him, which I managed to do. And then at the end, Wouter was attacking me, but I had loads more ERS, and yeah, it was there were times where there was some contact, but I don't think I did anything really against the rules. Maybe you could say the slowing down into turn 1 was a bit dirty, but I wasn't slowing down. I just kept it in 7th gear. I didn't brake or lift off the throttle at any time. So yeah, I'm really happy with that performance. That's sorry for the long summary, but yeah, I'm just so excited after that race.
No, you're quite right. I did wonder after the other stages, I think it was turn 5, the left hand on the middle sector, looked as if you're struggling a little bit for downforce after that initial contact. Then I thought at first, oh, he has got damage, and then later on we were like, he hasn't pit, he's alright, he's got good pace, so we thought he'd got off clear. But that just, I think that maybe puts into a bit more perspective the sort of pace you had in that initial stint as well, even with the damage keeping on. Yeah, of course, going for the undercut worked out. You had to lose them 5 seconds, but gained it back. And then that immense battle for P3. I'm not quite sure where you started, but you were a firm favourite going in for the pole prior to the race. I suppose, did you have that sort of expectation yourself, and how was that shaken up? How did you find the qualifying, I suppose? Mixed conditions all throughout. It was a it was a strange one for me and Jamie, put it that way.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I knew my pace was I had a lot of Australia races lately, and I knew my pace was probably the best out of everyone. Top Q1, then was like 10th in the train on the when it got wet, and still managed to get P1. Yeah, I was really confident, and then usually Cameron is just insanely fast in the intermediate conditions. So fair play to him, considering he's on no assist as well against all of those guys. That's just amazing. So I got P4, which I wasn't too mad about, because I knew it was going to be pretty easy to stay with the DRS. But yeah, then that happened. But I was happy with the qualifying result at the end, considering I not really confident in the wet yet, especially not on the load. So I'm still getting used to it. So yeah, I mean, I was really happy after quali. I did, if it was dry, I think I could have gotten pole, but yeah, the wet just messed it up a bit.
Just ruining the chances with the weather dry race, so leaving you a chance to come back right towards the end. That's everything I've really got. Jamie, hand it over to you, my friend, for the final few questions.
A lot went on in that race, and pretty much forgot you had full wind damage. But where do you think you would have finished? Well, where do you think you were going to finish when you had that full wind damage? Do you expect a podium still, anywhere there like that?
After the initial contact, I immediately asked Jeff, and I heard, minor front wing. So I knew my race I wasn't gonna win. I knew that for sure. But when I realized that my pace was good enough to stay with Andreas and Mark, I thought, if I go for this undercut, it's definitely in there. Because I think Ruti boxed too early. As soon as I saw him box, I was like, he's gonna struggle at the end, which he did. Wouter's tires were way better. He had the perfect strat, but I didn't expect the podium after I heard that I had damage. So it's so amazing to get up on the podium after no safety cars, and then with the damage. Just amazing.
When Ruti overtook you, did you think you were going to pull away and be on those soft compound tires?
I knew I had good pace, and at that point, this medium still fell. I was still confident on mediums. And like I said, I knew, well, I didn't know, but I did really think that he boxed too early. So I did have to use some ERS, but I knew that his tires would drop off and mine would get better compared to his. So as soon as I saw that I was able to stick it with him for 3 laps, I knew it's going to be quite easy to stay with him for the rest of the stint.
Those last few laps of battling were immense. They were so crazy. All 3 or 4 you were going at it into the last podium pay position. Were you ever nervous that you were going to lose it or anything like that? Were you keeping calm?
Well, there was one point where we were going 3 wide into into turn 3, and I was in the middle, and I thought Wouter maybe would get his nose out, but yeah, he went up the inside. I had to leave him room, and yeah, Ruti had to turn in as well for the corner, of course. But at that point, I thought, oh, it's over. But then Wouter had way better traction, but I had loads more ERS, so I was able to brake later than him. Yeah, I was moving to the apex, but not. I didn't move in the braking, so yeah, it was all just within the limit. And yeah, at that point, going 3 wide into turn 1, I thought it was gonna be plane crash, but it didn't happen. So
Despite everything that happened, congrats on P3, Rudy.
yeah, cheers. Thanks for commentating.
Another good showing by the man in the Ferrari, taking out his P3, but couldn't quite match the pace of the 2 Mercedes here around the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria. I suppose that's us. Jamie will round off pretty sharply tonight. Not want to keep anybody too long as we have to, but I suppose we'll go through the formalities. I've been your host, CRL Freefall, joined by the wonderful LFR Indigo, as he's now known. A nice little change at the front of the name, and back to your roots in your name, mate. It's nice to see the Indigo tag floating around again.
Thank you, mate. It's been a pleasure to commentate with you as always, and a long 2-week break in Saudi Arabia. We're next in Abu Dhabi in the Middle East.
Another return flight for all at CRL across into the Middle East, like you say. Should be an interesting one. But last but least, I suppose to say thank you very much for joining me, Jamie. Always a pleasure. Make sure, though, to check back on the CRL channel on Monday night, as we'll have Tier 3 and Tier 4. Yes, there's been a little switch around in the schedule now. Monday nights, Tier 3 and Tier 4 will now race like the old Season 5, Season 4, Season 3, and all beyond did, with 3 and 4 kicking off the week on a Monday, and 1 and 2 following up on the same first day with the same round. So you can make sure to join back and check out our regular Tier 3 and Tier 4 commentators. 7:30 BST for Tier 3, 8 PM BST for Tier 4. Then join us back next week, as me and Jamie will be back once again for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Division 2, of course, starting off at 7:30, where the wonderful Hedgehog and Cool Dude Boy Jonathan will be your host for that Grand Prix. So make sure to go check them out. And once you're finished up there, come back across and join me and Jamie Indigo for what is sure to be another thrilling race. For the last time this week, I've been your host, CRL Freefall. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a wonderful race, a wonderful night, and I hope you have a great, great week. Thank you, and goodbye.